Hi everyone. Before you drift off, let me know in the comments where you're listening from. If you're enjoying the stories, don't forget to like and subscribe. Now let's relax and jump into tonight's case. Story 1. In March 2014, after 48 years of wrongful imprisonment, Iwao Hakamata walked free, a seismic moment for Japan's justice system. His case not only set a world record for the longest time spent unjustly behind bars, but also ignited fierce international scrutiny. Yet, Hakamata's ordeal isn't Japan's only contentious saga. Another case, steeped in enigma and unresolved for over half a century, lingers without a satisfying conclusion. The Sayama case, tied to Ishikawa Kazuo, now 86 years old. Though his imprisonment didn't stretch as long as Hakamata's, the accusations against him are riddled with doubt. Some even whisper a bizarre link to the iconic animated film, My Neighbor Totoro. Was Ishikawa Kazuo truly wronged? And could this case ever be reopened? It all began on a spring afternoon in 1963. May 1st, a Wednesday, brought a drizzle to Sayama City in Saitama Prefecture. Inside a classroom at Tokiwa High School, 16-year-old Nakata Yoshi sat by the window, gazing out now and then, hoping the rain would ease. Her family, well off by local standards, ran a thriving produce business. That day was her birthday, and as tradition dictated, they had prepared red bean rice at dawn to celebrate. Rushed to swing by the post office before school, Yoshi grabbed a quick bite and dashed off, forgetting her umbrella. Japan buzzed with anticipation for the 1964 Tokyo Olympics. When commemorative stamps hit the market, Yoshi's classmates clamored to own them. As class president, she took on the task of ordering them. But that morning, the post office teemed with people, and the process dragged. Seeing her haste, a clerk suggested she head to school and return after classes for the receipt. At 2:30 p.m., the bell signaled the end of the morning session. Classmates packed up and trickled out, but Yoshi lingered to wrap up some duties. An hour later, as the rain softened, she pedaled away on her bike. By 4:30, a downpour erupted. The Nakata family, finishing work early, planned a birthday dinner at home. But by 7 p.m., Yoshi hadn't returned. Their home in Iruma lay 4 kilometers from school. Yoshi's daily route was routine, from school to Irumagawa Station, then along the Fujisayama Road. No matter her errands, she'd be back by 6 p.m. With the storm raging and no sign of her, her father grew uneasy and sent her brother Kenji to fetch her in the family's pickup truck. Yoshi attended a part-time high school split into shifts, a 2-year morning program focused on home economics, and a 4-year evening track. When Kenji reached the school, the night classes had begun. A teacher confirmed the morning students had long since left. Recalling a time Yoshi took the bus from Irumagawa Station, Kenji sped there. The platform stood eerily empty, no trace of her. By 7:30 p.m., he returned home to break the news. Stepping from the truck, Kenji froze. In the garage, Yoshi's bike stood neatly parked. Yet she wasn't inside. He bolted in, scouring the house. No sign of her. Passing the front door, a white envelope beneath the wooden frame caught his eye. It looked freshly placed, oddly out of place. Scrawled across it were 4 words, Nakata Isaku, his father's name. The family rushed over. Kenji gingerly opened it. Inside lay Yoshi's student ID and a letter. As they read the jagged handwriting, shock gripped them. If you want your daughter alive at midnight on May 2nd, send a woman with $100 in cash to Asano's shop. My friend will drive up to collect it. Be 1 minute late and you'll never see her again. Call the police and she's dead. If my friend doesn't return safely on time, her body will be at the bottom of Cebu Park's pond. Go fish it out yourself. If he gets back unharmed, I'll release her an hour later. Listen close. Do not tell the police. Breathe a word to anyone and she's gone. If my friend spots anyone else at the drop, he'll turn back and finish her off right then. Curiously, the letter bore signs of tampering. The original date, April 29th, was scratched out and changed to May 2nd. The drop point shifted from front door to Asano's shop. Most striking, "Do not tell the police" loomed in oversized letters as if screaming its urgency. What had befallen Yoshi? Who penned this cryptic ransom note? And why the altered dates and locations? The tale was veering into the bizarre, kicking off one of Japan's most perplexing cases. 10 minutes after receiving the ransom note, the Nakata family made a fateful call. They alerted the police. Kenji sped to Kuramai Station, the nearest precinct, to report the crisis. Recognizing the gravity, officers escalated the case to Sayama Police Headquarters. That night, investigators descended on the Nakata home. But the note's deadline, midnight, May 2nd, left a maddening ambiguity. Tonight or tomorrow, the uncertainty paralyzed them. No one dared gamble with Yoshi's life. At 11:40 p.m. that evening, Tommy, Yoshi's older sister, set out with $100 in counterfeit cash to Asano's shop, the drop point specified by the culprit. The place, a hybrid general store and tavern, sat nestled among tea gardens and rice paddies, shrouded by dense thickets. Perfect ambush spot. Yet that night, no one showed. The next evening, Tommy returned. The air hung still, broken only by the rustle of wind through leaves. Over 40 officers crouched in the shadows, breath held, waiting. Tommy stood at the storefront, palms clammy with sweat. Suddenly, a man's voice cut through the quiet, calling from a field 30 meters southeast. Tommy drew a steadying breath, summoning her nerve, and shouted back, urging him to show himself. At first, he responded, a tense back and forth stretched over 10 minutes. Then his tone darkened, laced with suspicion. "You called the cops, didn't you? I see 2 people out there." Tommy froze. The officers flinched, unsure if he was bluffing or had spotted them. No one dared move. Abruptly, the voice bellowed, "I'm out," before darting back into the field, vanishing into the night. The ambush team gave chase, but darkness cloaked the terrain. Thorny bushes and limited sight lines thwarted them. The note had claimed he had drive up for the cash, so police had staked out the main roads, leaving the fields unguarded. Their quarry slipped away right under their noses. Tommy couldn't make out his face, only recalling a trembling, soft voice. Local accent, maybe 26 to 33 years old. At dawn, police combed the fields around Sano's shop, uncovering footprints. Bloodhounds were deployed. One tracked southeast to Ganja Bridge over the Furo River before losing the scent. Another veered north from the shop, stalling in a thick forest. By 3 p.m., a breakthrough, a rubber bike strap belonging to Yoshi, turned up in the woods. Over 100 investigators fanned out, intensifying the search. The next morning, a grim discovery awaited on a trail in Irumigawa, Nakata Yoshi's body. When word spread, the Nakata family crumbled under grief. No one could fathom that the 16-year-old, fresh from her birthday 2 days prior, had fallen victim to such savagery. Yoshi, a gentle girl from a comfortable family, lived a quiet life. Her father served on the Agricultural Council, overseeing the family farm. Her mother had passed a decade earlier, leaving him with 5 children. The eldest sister had moved to Tokyo 8 years ago, cutting ties. Kenji, Yoshi's brother, had attended Irumigawa Junior High, an evening school for those unable to complete standard education, before staying home to help with the farm. Tommy, post-junior high, managed the household. Yoshi had another older brother and a younger one too. The Nakatas led a peaceful existence, tending their farm without feuds or enemies. Yoshi's death rocked the tight-knit community, the area's first major crime, sparking rumors and piling pressure on local police. Her body lay in a shallow pit, less than a meter deep, face down, a heavy stone crushing her head. Her eyes were blindfolded with cloth, her ankles bound with thin cord, her hands tied behind her back with a towel. Her wristwatch was gone. That night, with family consent, a forensic exam took place at the Nakata home. The findings painted a brutal picture: head trauma, drag marks on her stomach and shins, signs of assault. DNA testing didn't exist then, but blood type B was linked to the killer. Strangulation claimed her life, likely around 4:20 p.m. on May 1st. Curiously, her stomach held undigested food, tomatoes, red beans, carrots, potatoes. Classmates confirmed lunch at school lacked tomatoes, suggesting Yoshi ate E again after class, possibly with her killer or someone else. Piecing it together, a chilling theory emerged. By the time the ransom note arrived, Yoshi was already dead. The note itself raised red flags. Riddled with misspellings, scrawled in sloppy script, and awkwardly worded, it didn't read like the work of an educated mind. Police wondered, was the culprit barely literate or deliberately masking their skill to mislead? At the crime scene, police uncovered a crucial clue: footprints from a pair of jikatabi shoes, traditional Japanese footwear with a split toe for better grip and balance. Favored by construction workers and farmers, this hinted that the killer might be a manual laborer. During the investigation near Sano's shop, bloodhounds traced the suspects sent to Ganj Bridge, just over 100 meters from the Nakata home, a spot along Yoshi's daily route to school. Near the bridge stood the Ishida pig farm, which quickly drew police scrutiny. The Ishida farm was run by three brothers from the Byakuman class, outcasts in feudal Japan, relegated to unclean trades like slaughtering livestock, tanning hides, and handling corpses. Though the caste system dissolved during the Meiji era, prejudice lingered, especially in rural areas like Sayama. In 1963, Sayama was still a modest town, its economy rooted in agriculture. As Japan's urban centers surged ahead, the rural-urban wealth gap yawned wider. The Byakuman, already shunned, were shoved further to society's fringes. The Ishida brothers' pig farm epitomized that ostracism. All three had rap sheets for violence, accused of harassing women and stirring trouble. Their workers were notorious for petty theft. To locals, the farm was a den of thugs. A snarling guard dog only deepened its menacing reputation, keeping outsiders at bay. 10 days after finding Yoshi, a farmer stumbled across an abandoned shovel in a wheat field, over 100 meters from the crime scene. Police traced it back to the Ishida farm, which had reported a missing shovel. Tests confirmed it was theirs, and the soil clinging to it matched the dirt where Yoshi was buried. This revelation hit hard. The shovel was likely the tool used to dig her shallow grave. More crucially, someone from the Ishida farm could be the killer. Only an insider would know where the shovel was kept. Only someone familiar with the place could snatch it without rousing the ferocious German shepherd. Narrowing their focus, police zeroed in on a suspicious worker at the farm. His name was Genji Okudami, 27, blood type B, a delivery hand at the piggery. A decade earlier, he had worked for the Nakata family, giving him intimate knowledge of their routines in the local terrain. The ransom note's drop point, Sano's shop, was a spot only a local would know. His handwriting bore a striking resemblance to the note's scrawl. These threads made Okudami the prime suspect, yet no hard evidence tied him to the crime. After 2 days of grilling, he took his own life, leaping into a well at his home. A suicide note claimed he was terminally ill and couldn't go on, but a follow-up probe debunked that. Okudami was healthy. His wedding was just 10 days away. Family and friends saw no signs of despair. His sudden exit cloaked the case in deeper shadows. Police formed a special task force, rounding up dozens of suspects, but every lead fizzled out. The trail grew cold. Then, an unrelated petty theft unexpectedly cracked the case wide open. A man was nabbed for stealing, Ishikawa Kazuo, 24, blood type B, a construction apprentice working with his older brother. He caught the police's eye fast. Not only did his blood type match the killer's, but like the pig farm workers, he hailed from the Byakuman class. Ishikawa Kazuo was born into Sayama's poorest Byakuman enclave. His family of 7 squeezed into a cramped shack, barely 8 tatami mats wide, about 140 square feet. His father toiled tirelessly but, illiterate, earned just enough to scrape by. Day after day, he'd buy 5 or 6 packs of udon noodles for the family to split across 2 meals. When cash ran dry, they survived on wheat husks. Too broke for paper or pens, Ishikawa barely attended school. Mocked by peers, he dropped out young. Though he later limped through elementary education, he remained nearly illiterate. His childhood was shadowed by fear of police. His parents wielded them as a boogeyman to curb his mischief. At 13, he was fingered for a train accident. Terrified by the officer's aggression, he confessed despite his innocence, only escaping when his employer vouched for him. As an adult, Ishikawa drifted, juggling jobs, construction laborer, steel mill worker, candy salesman. His illiteracy drew taunts from coworkers, sparking his short fuse and frequent scuffles. No gig lasted long. Gambling sank him deeper, racking up debts of $255. Burnt out, he returned to Sayama. Pressured by family, he took a stint at the pig farm. His brother urged him to quit, citing its rough reputation, and Ishikawa followed, apprenticing as a mason instead. That pig farm link piqued police interest. They hauled him in. With a rap sheet, local knowledge, and handwriting eerily close to the ransom notes, Ishikawa looked shady. During questioning, he bristled with fury, sarcastically jabbing that all buraku means scrawl alike, vowing revenge if wrongly convicted. That day, police ransacked his home for over 2 hours. They dug up the yard, combed every corner, even climbed the roof. No smoking gun. A closer sweep turned up a rubber strap, identical to one from Yoshi's bike. Then, on the towel binding her hands, they spotted a candy store logo, a souvenir from a baseball game Ishikawa had attended. Tommy, Yoshi's sister, and officers from the ambush swore his voice matched the extortionists. For over 20 days, Ishikawa stonewalled, insisting he was clean. He claimed he worked with his brother from 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. that day, then stayed home, asleep by 9 after dinner. Only family backed his story. Police dismissed it, lacking solid alibi proof. On June 9th, forensics matched shoe prints from Ishikawa's home to those outside Seno's shop, the ransom drop site. The truth seemed tantalizingly close. Another search of his place yielded nothing new. On June 19th, Ishikawa launched a hunger strike, protesting forced confessions. But a day later, his defiance flipped. He volunteered a bombshell. He was involved, but not the mastermind. 2 old pig farm co-workers, he said, hatched the plan. He just stole the shovel and wrote the note. Oddly, he wouldn't name them, stoking police skepticism. Days later, buckling under relentless pressure, Ishikawa's resolve shattered. He confessed, this time casting himself as the mastermind. He claimed he had known Yoshi from his pig farm days, teasing her once, only to be ignored, sparking his rage. So he hatched a plan: kidnap her and draft the ransom note ahead of time. In his account, he skipped work that day. At 2 p.m., he disembarked at Irumigawa Station near Yoshi's school. 2 hours later, at Keijo intersection, he spotted her cycling home and struck. After overpowering her, he swiped her pen, returned home to tweak the note's date and drop off details, then set his scheme in motion. Past 6 p.m., he hauled Yoshi's bike to the Nakata house, ditching her school bag, watch, and textbooks along the way. There, he propped the bike in the garage, slipped the ransom note under the door, and slunk off. On his way back, he detoured to the pig farm, stole a shovel, then headed to the forest to dig a shallow grave. Job done. He tossed the shovel into a nearby wheat field and strolled home as if nothing had happened. Based on his confession, police retraced his steps and unearthed 3 damning clues. On June 21st, they found a school bag discarded in a field at the mountain's base. Empty, devoid of fingerprints or clear ownership, its design mirrored Yoshi's usual bag, enough for police to peg it as hers. On June 26th, a red and black fountain pen surfaced, expertly hidden in Ishikawa's home. Officers had to climb a chair to spot it wedged in a doorframe. It was Yoshi's brand. Ishikawa admitted using it to pen the ransom note. Forensic analysis confirmed the ink matched. On July 2nd, a citizen wristwatch, square-faced, metal-strapped, simple, turned up in a field. It was the spitting image of Yoshi's. With evidence piling up, police were convinced they'd nailed Ishikawa. For months after the crime, in September 1963, his trial kicked off at Urawa District Court. Before the bench, he owned every charge. After 6 months, the court found him guilty of murder and more, sentencing him to death. As the gavel fell, Ishikawa didn't flinch. He seemed calm, almost smug, But the next day, the case veered sharply off course. He recanted everything, filed an appeal, and swore he was innocent. Turns out, police had secretly dangled a deal. Confess and they'd push for leniency. 10 years, tops. Even as the death sentence landed, Ishikawa clung to the belief it was a PR stunt. Only back in jail, when someone asked why he wasn't scared, did the ruse dawn on him. He'd been duped. In his latest statement, he said he left home at 7 a.m. that day. Not for work, but for a pachinko parlor in nearby Takarazawa's Shibuya district. By 2 p.m., he was back at Irumagawa Station. Afraid his dad would catch him slacking, he loitered near the west gate, even greeting an acquaintance. 2 hours later, he took shelter from rain in Sayama, near Yoshi's school, spotted some students, then headed home past 7 p.m. Police tracked down his acquaintance, who couldn't confirm or deny the encounter. The case barely settled before a chilling wave hit. Over the next decade, 6 people tied to it took their own lives. Genji Okudami, the first suspect, ended at post-interrogation. A witness who had seen 3 shady figures near Yoshi's house, an alleged friend of Ishikawa, followed soon after. In 1964, Tommy, Yoshi's sister, took her life after the trial wrapped, her reasons a mystery. In 1906, the pig farm owner died on train tracks, cause unclear. In 1974, a key witness who had spotted a man cycling that night, a description clashing with Ishikawa, killed himself. In 1907, Yoshi's second eldest brother did the same. That year, a reporter digging into the case also died mysteriously. Details murky. This grim tally fueled public doubt. Was something rotten still buried in the Sayama case? From its earliest hearings, the Sayama case gripped public attention. Barakuman advocacy groups argued the trial was tainted by societal bias, risking a wrongful conviction. After the initial verdict, protests erupted, demanding a retrial. Behind bars, Ishikawa taught himself to read and write, relentlessly filing appeals. Yet requests for a new trial in 1977 and 1986 were shot down. Public interest swelled. In December 1994, after 31 years and 7 months in prison, Ishikawa Kazuo, now 55, was paroled. Rather than fading into obscurity, he poured his energy into clearing his name. He joined social movements, penned books about his ordeal, amplifying the case's reach. His persistence peeled back layers of police misconduct from 1963. Evidence suggested officers had hinted his brother was implicated. Confess or they'd nab him too. This raised doubts about the investigation's integrity, rallying more support for Ishikawa. A year after his release at a rally for Barakuman justice, he met a woman from the same marginalized roots. She'd followed the Sayama case for years, moved by his resolve. A year later, they married. To her, Ishikawa was meticulous, earnest, traits that cemented her belief in his innocence, and fueled her resolve to stand by him in his fight. In 2006, he lodged a third retrial request. 3 years later, prosecutors, defense lawyers, and the court launched tripartite talks, unveiling 36 new pieces of evidence. Old audio tapes, Ishikawa's notebooks, investigation logs, local testimonies. These cast serious doubt on the case's 3 cornerstone exhibits. The school bag, found in Kuho Ditch near the crime scene, didn't align with Ishikawa's hand-drawn map. His claimed spot clashed with its discovery site. Yoshi's bag should have held a wallet and notebooks, yet both were missing. Ishikawa said he'd taken her ID from a trifold wallet, but hers was a zippered model. Her ID was too large to fit inside, too. These discrepancies begged the question, had someone staged the scene to frame him? The fountain pen stood as a pivotal piece of evidence, yet it was shrouded in troubling inconsistencies. First, its discovery defied logic. Police had scoured Ishikawa's home twice right after the crime, turning up nothing. An officer involved in the search swore he'd climbed a chair to inspect the doorframe thoroughly. No pen in sight. So how did it emerge later, as if conjured from thin air? Beyond that, the pen's nib and ink didn't align with what Yoshi used. Ishikawa claimed he had edited the ransom note with her pen, but forensic analysis revealed a stark mismatch. The note's revisions bore medium strokes, while the seized pen produced thin, crisp lines. A clear divergence. The ink itself told another story. The pen from Ishikawa's home held deep blue-black ink, distinct from the pale blue Yoshi used at school that day. More damning, lab tests uncovered a critical clue. Yoshi's ink contained potassium traces, while the pen's ink had none. This confirmed the two were fundamentally different. Finally, no fingerprints, neither Yoshi's nor Ishikawa's, marred the pen. A judge once floated a theory, perhaps Yoshi swapped the cartridge. But the cartridge too was pristine, no prints, fueling suspicions that the evidence might have been planted. The wristwatch, presumed to be Yoshi's, surfaced on a road already combed by police. Ishikawa said he had flung it into a field the night before, yet it turned up intact elsewhere the next day. That night, torrential rain had lashed the area, and the watch lacked waterproofing. By all rights, it should have been ruined. Instead, its hands ticked on flawlessly when found. Tommy, Yoshi's sister, added fuel to the fire. The strap in Yoshi's wearing habits didn't match this watch, hinting it might have been deliberately placed post-crime. Beyond these core exhibits, other evidence frayed at the edges. The trial had pegged crime scene footprints to Ishikawa, but modern 3D scanning exposed glaring differences in the faded contours compared to his shoes. He claimed he throttled Yoshi by hand, yet a fresh forensic report pointed elsewhere. She'd been strangled with something soft, likely fabric, leaving distinct marks on her neck. Near the crime scene, a field stretched open, its view unobstructed. A local farmer insisted he had heard no screams or odd noises when Yoshi was supposedly killed. Shockingly, this vital witness never took the stand in 1963, piling more uncertainty onto the case. That wasn't all. Experts re-examining Ishikawa's notebook, handwriting found it didn't match the ransom note. Flipping the police's original call, the shovel soil composition, and the era's blood typing methods faced scrutiny too, their reliability now in question. If Ishikawa was innocent, then who attacked Yoshi? Another striking detail emerged from Yoshi's diary, penned days before she vanished. She wrote, "Tonight I fought with my brother over pocket money again. I cried and hid under the blankets. But even there, I couldn't shake the frustration. It burned inside me." This snippet sparked a chilling question. Could the killer be family? In the Nakata household, the father held a firm belief. Farm kids needed only a junior high education. Yoshi's two older brothers stopped there, while she alone advanced to high school. Her schooling might have skewed the family's inheritance, especially for Kenji, the eldest, groomed to take over. Suspicion deepened years later. Both her older brother and sister took their own lives. Her younger brother was reportedly adopted out, leaving Kenji as the sole survivor. This grim pattern fueled a sinister theory, a calculated purge over internal rivalry. If Kenji were the culprit, oddities start to make sense. The Nakata home's front door was glass. Anyone inside could see the garage where Yoshi's bike was found. A stranger sneaking in would have been spotted, but a family member? Their actions might slip by unnoticed. Of course, this remains speculation. No hard proof backs it up. Beyond the family angle, suspicion swirled around others near Yoshi. Some pointed to her teacher, the pig farm owner, or a neighbor feuding with Nakata's overland, each with potential motives. Yet, Ishikawa's shadow lingers, unresolved, the towel at the scene tied back to him, and no one could definitively place him elsewhere when the crime struck. Those threads still demand scrutiny. Years later, the Sayama case took an unexpected twist, whispered to echo the iconic animated film, My Neighbor Totoro, directed by Hayao Miyazaki. The movie's setting drew inspiration from Matsugo in Tokorozawa, Saitama Prefecture, a stone's throw from Sayama. In the film, the protagonist's mother recovers at Shichikokoyama Hospital. No such place exists, but Tokorozawa has Hachikokoyama, eerily close in sound. The English title, My Neighbor Totoro, translates to the Japanese Tonari no Totoro, Tonari no Totoro. Miyazaki has said, Totoro sprang from a mythical creature tied to Tokorozawa. A friend's daughter misread it as Totoro, and he found the slip charming enough to name his creation. but some fans see more. They speculate Totoro embodies a supernatural force tied to life and death, with the film subtly nodding to the Sayama case. Though Miyazaki and Studio Ghibli have never confirmed this, the theories stir debate, shrouding the case in deeper enigma. Takarazawa, right beside Sayama, hosts Seibun Park, named in the ransom note. Another detail catches the eye. In the film's moving scene, a box bears the label Sayama Tea, Sayamacha, the region's famed brew. The coincidences don't end there. The names of the film's sisters, Satsuki and Mei, tie chillingly to the Sayama case's timeline. In Japanese, Satsuki means May, while Mei Imii echoes the English May, the month Yoshi was killed in 1963. In the movie, the sisters, one 12, the other 4, total 16 years old, matching Yoshi's age at her death. The plot of the younger sister getting lost, and the older one frantically searching mirrors Tommy's desperate hunt for Yoshi in the rain. These parallels send shivers down the spine. Another oddity lurks in the film's promotional poster. It features just one girl with pigtails, not the 2 sisters seen in the story. This fuels speculation that the film might have started with a lone protagonist, with Mei added later. The girl stands in the rain, clutching an umbrella, mirroring the downpour the day Yoshi vanished. This begs the question, is My Neighbor Totoro more than a children's tale? Could it conceal a tragic undercurrent? In the film's latter half, unsettling moments emerge. The sisters cast no shadows in some scenes, a rare choice in animation, hinting they might no longer be alive. By the end, they visit their mother at the hospital, but don't enter. Instead, they perch on a tree branch outside. The mother gazes out the window, smiling, saying she feels her daughters are close. It's a tender scene, but perhaps a metaphor for their death, lingering only in her memory. These details cast a shadow over the film's warm, whimsical surface, revealing a mysterious, somber edge few viewers expect. Director Hayao Miyazaki once revealed the script began with just the older sister, opening with Totoro offering her an umbrella in the rain. Later, he thought it'd be more engaging if the younger sister spotted Totoro first. Thus Mei was born, turning it into a sibling tale. Yet Miyazaki has never addressed the Sayama case theories. Not until May 2007 did Studio Ghibli post a statement on its official site, insisting Totoro isn't a death deity and Mei doesn't die. Curiously, it dropped on May 1st, the exact date of the Sayama crime. This uncanny timing only thickens the mystery swirling around the film. In February 25th, Ishikawa Kazuo, now 86, still battles for a retrial. At a rally for justice, he declared, "My health may be fading, but my will to fight burns as strong as ever. I'll keep pushing for a new trial until my last breath." His words radiate unyielding resolve in his quest for vindication. Yet the core question persists. Is Ishikawa truly the Sayama case's killer, or a casualty of a flawed legal system? Over 60 years later, the truth remains elusive. Will justice ever pierce the fog, or will it stay buried beneath theories and guesswork forever? Story 2. Hyperconnected world. Where the internet blankets every corner, online romance has become a common bridge to companionship. While virtual love has sparked joy for many, it hides a jagged edge of risk. Even face-to-face, truly knowing someone is elusive. Through a cold scream, that uncertainty multiplies. Sometimes it spirals into consequences no one could foresee. Blanca Arellano, a bold Mexican woman chasing love, ventured over 4,000 kilometers alone to meet her dream man. She thought she'd found her soulmate, her ticket to bliss. Instead, what awaited was a meticulously laid nightmare, orchestrated by a man stripped of all humanity. What went down that year? Blanca Arellano was a confident, upbeat Mexican woman. 51, she was still single. Suitors weren't scarce, but Blanca clung to a fierce romantic streak, yearning for a love that seared into her bones, a soulmate to call her own. She lived with her family in Mexico City, sharing a tight bond with her niece, Carla. Her loved ones cheered her gutsy pursuit of romance. Who doesn't crave a blazing love story? Yet, in everyday life, no white knight had swept her off her feet. So, Blanca turned to the digital realm, diving into online connections, a trend surging among the young and restless. In early 22, while playing Fortnite, Blanca crossed paths with a Peruvian gamer. He ran a group within the game, and their chats soon flowed freely. Before long, he tapped her as a co-admin. Beyond gaming, their talks deepened, spilling into late-night exchanges that hooked Blanca fast. It wasn't his looks or flash that drew her. At her age, she prized heart over sheen. His sincerity, his simplicity, they struck a chord she couldn't shake. His name was Juan Pablo Villafuerte, a 37-year-old Peruvian born January 16, 1985, in Lima. A medical student, his income was modest despite the field. That grounded vibe reassured Blanca. Online, she dodged plenty of posers flaunting cars and yachts. As days bled into weeks, their bond tightened. They swapped life's highs and lows, growing so close that a day without talking left them hollow. With each exchange, Blanca grew surer. Juan was the kindred spirit she'd hunted for. She didn't hide her feelings from family, often sharing Juan's messages with Carla. Her loved ones beamed at her newfound spark, though the 4,000-kilometer gap tempered their cheers with polite blessings. Time flew. By July 22nd, after over a year of screen-bound love, Blanca craved more than pixels and texts. Juan's nudges to visit Peru fanned her restlessness. She made a fearless call. She'd fly solo to meet him. More than that, she planned to stay to build a life there, to fund the flight and settle in. She sold her car and chunks of her wardrobe, betting everything on this romance, blind to the terror lurking ahead. On July 27, 22, with bags packed and farewells said, Blanca embarked on her cross-continental love quest. Her family fretted, but she brushed it off. Modern tech like Instagram and Facebook would keep her tethered. She reasoned. Nothing could go seriously wrong. For love, it was all worth it. At 2:45 a.m. on July 28th, her plane touched down safely at Jorge Chavez International Airport in Lima. Juan greeted her, and they headed to his Huacho apartment, diving into a whirlwind romance. Those first days brimmed with joy, touring scenic spots, soaking in each other's company. Even lost in love, Blanca kept family in the loop, sending glowing selfies and updates. Juan treated her well. They were thriving. Seeing her radiant, her relatives finally exhaled. Maybe she'd truly found her forever. But then, on November 7th, things turned eerie. Her phone went dead. Her social media froze. Unheard of for Blanca. She'd picked up a Peruvian number, but Carla didn't have it, leaving her in the dark. The niece bombarded Blanca's Instagram and Facebook with messages, desperate for a ping back. 2 days passed. Silence. Panic mounting, Carla tracked down Juan on Facebook. They'd connected before. He'd posted pics with Blanca aplenty. What sent a shiver down Carla's spine was this. Every post about Blanca on Juan's Facebook had vanished. Suspicion gnawed at her, but there was no time to dwell. She fired off a message to Juan. My aunt's been out of touch since Sunday. How is she? Can you help me reach her? Juan replied with polished calm. I haven't seen her in days. Blanca said she was bored with me and left on her own. All I know is, she headed to Lima and bought a ticket back to Mexico. Beyond that, I'm in the dark. Hearing she's missing saddens me too. I hope you find her soon. Oh, and her phone's battery died. Maybe that's why she's off-grid. His words and tone only deepened Carla's unease. If Blanca planned to return home, she'd have told the family first. Going silent like this was unthinkable. Plus, if Juan's story held, she'd have landed in Mexico by now. A gut instinct screamed trouble, but from distant Mexico, Carla had no clue where to start searching in Peru. Worse, Juan's refusal to assist left her stranded in a maze of worry. With no options left, Carla turned to the Huacho police for help. She also took to social media, posting pleas for leads, hoping to rally Mexico's online community. Her call spread fast. Fellow Mexicans amplified it, and soon she linked up with the Mexican embassy in Peru. Sensing the gravity, the embassy teamed with Peruvian police to launch a search. By November 13th to 2, Blanca had been missing a week. Yet local cops had zilch. No trace, no clues. One detail stood out. Airport records showed no sign of Blanca boarding a flight. She hadn't left Peru. From afar, Carla grew certain. Juan was tied to her aunt's disappearance. To jolt the online world, Carla blasted a public Facebook post, begging for help finding Blanca. She exposed Juan's photo and profile, thrusting him into a spotlight of scrutiny. Word of Blanca's vanishing rippled through Huacho. Locals buzzed, some whispering Juan had nabbed her, others fearing he'd gone further. Online, the reaction flared hotter. Netizens hounded Juan, some outright branding him a killer. The backlash rattled him. He scrambled to Facebook, firing off denials to fend off the tidal wave of rage. As this virtual war raged, police and concerned citizens pressed on, hunting for Blanca. Then, a ghastly twist broke it all open. On November 9, 22, Peruvian fishermen casting nets near Huacho's beach spotted something odd bobbing in. A toy-like hand drifting ashore. But as they edged closer, dread took hold. It wasn't plastic, it was human. Alarmed, they flagged the police. A close inspection revealed the hand's fingerprints had been meticulously erased. Whether by oversight or intent, a silver ring still gleamed on one finger. It was a common trinket, though no unique marks to ID its owner. Widening their sweep along the coast, police dredged up a human head. The grisliest detail? Its face had been deliberately sliced off, leaving identification a near-impossible puzzle. The next day, waves coughed up an arm and scattered flesh. By day 3, more body parts washed in. Forensics pieced them together. A middle-aged woman, they deduced. But the next finding jolted them harder. Her organs were gone, extracted with surgical precision. This wasn't just cruelty. It hinted at a killer with chilling expertise. Outrage erupted. Locals demanded justice for the butchered stranger. By now, Blanca's disappearance had gripped Peru. The body's discovery site lay close to where she'd last been heard from, nudging police to wonder, was this her? They contacted her family with the grim news, but the corpse was ravaged, face mutilated, prints obliterated. Standard item methods faltered. 2 clues lingered, the silver ring and a butterfly tattoo on the left shoulder. When police released photos of the ring and tattoo, Blanca's family broke down in sobs. She'd worn an identical ring and bore that same butterfly mark. Legally, though, these weren't enough to confirm it. Racing to Peru, her relatives brought DNA and dental records. The results grimly aligned. It was Blanca, grief still raw. They vowed to hunt the monster behind it. Juan Pablo Villafuerte topped the suspect list. He was Blanca's sole tie in Peru. But 2 damning threads tightened the noose. First, as a med student, he had deep anatomical know-how. Second, right after her disappearance, he'd posted a dissection video featuring a human body. Police raided his Huacho rental, unearthing 3 large suitcases. One distinctly feminine, alongside women's clothes and a tiny Mexican flag. At first glance, nothing screamed foul play. Then luminol hit the scene. Blood traces flared across the bedroom, kitchen, bathroom, and laundry area. Doubt evaporated. This was the kill site. On November 17th, with evidence stacked high, police arrested Juan, charging him with murder and illegal organ trafficking. He denied it all, swearing he'd never met Blanca. He even claimed an alibi. From November 7th to 9, when she vanished, he wasn't in Huacho. Phone signals backed him. None pinged there, but the cops weren't buying it. To prove his innocence, Juan played the cooperative card with investigators, pledging to hand over whatever they needed. But in practice, he dodged key questions, spinning blatant lies. He swore he'd never met Blanca, until police cracked his phone and computer, unearthing a trove of intimate chats between them. He denied she'd lived with him, yet his landlord confirmed they'd shared the apartment for over 3 months. Each falsehood piled suspicion higher. Was he the killer, or did a darker secret lurk beneath? With over 60 pieces of evidence, and to stop Juan from bolting, the court ordered him detained for 9 months under preventive custody at a November 2022 hearing. In Peru, this measure holds suspects during probes, especially flight risks or those likely to tamper with justice. Typically, it caps at 9 months before trial. But Blanca's case wasn't a run-of-the-mill murder. Peruvian law splits such crimes into 2 tiers: standard homicide, 15 to 25 years, or feminicidio, killing a woman due to gender, carrying 25 years to life. This stems from rampant violence against women in Latin America, with laws tightened to shield female victims. To pin feminicidio on Juan, investigators had to prove gender bias, control, domestic abuse, or misogyny. A tangled process needing airtight evidence, potentially stretching years. While locked up, Juan tried to end it all, claiming the drastic act would prove his innocence. Skeptics smelled a ploy for pity. Clinging to survival, he flip-flopped his story, first denying knowing Blanca, then calling her a casual friend, and finally, cornered by undeniable proof, spinning a tale that she ditched him in disgust. His aim was clear: steer the case toward plain homicide for a lighter rap. But against a mountain of evidence, his flimsy excuses rang hollow, a desperate farce. How would the trial play out? Would justice prevail? In September 23rd, Juan's trial kicked off. Prosecutors laid out their haul: blood traces and 3 red flags from his home. They painted a grim picture. Blanca scraping by in Peru, her bond with Juan souring fast. After burning through her savings, she leaned on him entirely. But he doled out just 80 sols weekly, about $21, a pittance that trapped her. 2. Broke the tablet. The clincher? A final call between Juan and Blanca on November 6, 22. She vanished after that. Police pegged it as her last moment alive. On November 7th, Juan powered off his phone, crafting an alibi. He wasn't in Huacho. Yet at 6:40 p.m., security cams caught him with a buddy at a store, buying soda, cigarettes, crackers, and 8 jumbo trash bags. Back home, he told the landlord he needed to stash a motorcycle in the complex. November 8th, he slipped out, quietly snagging bleach and disinfectants, then holed up all day, no school, no outings. On November 9th, he lugged a massive backpack to the beach. That same day, fishermen found Blanca's hand and head washed ashore. Forensics confirmed she'd been carved up with a surgical scalpel. A skill Juan, the med student, possessed. DNA nailed it. Blood and hair in his place were hers. No eyewitnesses, but the evidence screamed his guilt. More damning, Juan controlled Blanca, rationing cash to keep her dependent. Digging into his past revealed a marriage, 2 kids, and a divorce sparked by physical and mental abuse. With that history, his possessive grip on Blanca, and the savage method, the court ruled it feminicidio, gender-driven murder. On September 12, 23, the judge sentenced Juan to 35 years for homicide, plus a $13,000, 50,000 sols, fine to Blanca's family. Yet unanswered shadows lingered. Juan's motive wasn't mere rage or a lover's spat. He might have targeted Blanca's organs from the start. If organ trafficking fueled this, it wasn't his first kill. Was a syndicate pulling strings? Her organs vanished without a trace, bolstering that theory. University professors publicly demanded a wider probe, suggesting Juan tied into an organ trade ring, not just a lone butcher. Police eyed his brother and the trash bag buddy as possibles, but solid proof stayed elusive. The murk infuriated Blanca's family and the public. Carla, her niece, kept the case alive online, pleading it not fade, hoping Blanca's loss would jolt society awake. Peru's female safety crisis looms stark. It's among Latin America's worst for gender violence. In 22 stats logged, 34 women killed weekly. 11,124 went missing, yet only 48% were found. Those cold numbers mask countless broken homes, wounds that never heal. Blanca wasn't the first or likely the last. Peru's government set up women's emergency centers for support and protection. But despite the push, horrors like this persist, leaving a grieving nation. May Blanca's case be more than tragedy, a piercing wake-up call. Women's safety isn't just an online debate. It demands real action in the real world. Story 3. Meet Young Yu-young, a 23-year-old from Busan, South Korea. She's petite with a round, cherubic face that radiates innocence, a purity you'd never question. But on one eerie night in 23, Young Yu-young did something chillingly out of character. She twisted her hair into a schoolgirl bun, slipped into a uniform, pulled a mask tight over half her face, and crept out into the dark. The night breeze tugged at her hem as her figure melted into the shadows. Where was she up to? What horror unfolded under that cloak of night? Friday, May 26, 23. As dusk settled over Busan, the streets of Gyeomgyong district flickered to life. Tucked inland in the city's north, this bustling hub thrives on trade. By nightfall, shops roll out their wares. Streets hum with foot traffic, a lively pulse cutting through the dark. But in a quieter corner, a condo door creaked open. A short figure peeked out, scanning for eyes, then slipped into the shadows, easing it shut with a faint click. She darted down the stairs, mask up, face hidden. Her steps bounced with a strange lightness, hinting at a mood oddly bright. That figure, Young Yu-young, 23. Lately, she'd been holed up, grinding for a civil service exam, until tonight flipped the script. She swapped her usual for a loose yellow top, let her hair spill free behind her ears, her stride swaying loose and carefree. Cutting through the crowd, her mind churned, half smug, half jittery, over what she'd just pulled off. But it wasn't done yet. That thought kicked her pace up a notch. She bolted a stretch, landing at a nearby supermarket. 10 minutes later, she strutted out, a bulging bag of tools slung over her shoulder, heading home like nothing was amiss. Her place sat pitch black, empty. She flicked on the lights. Crime novels, borrowed from the library, still littered her shelves, her only escape. Young Yu-young had no friends. Books were her world. Back inside, she hauled out a big black suitcase. One by one, she stuffed her new haul inside, zipped it shut, and grabbed it tight, rushing out again. She crossed the city to another spot, slipped into a different condo, and locked the door with care. Eyeing the messy living room, a creepy smirk tugged at her lips. She crouched down, pulled tools from the case, and got to work. Hours bled by. The suitcase swelled full. Then, lugging its heavy load, she dragged it out of the condo. Midnight struck. Streets deserted, save for the odd empty taxi rolling past. Young Yu-young circled back near home and flagged one down. The driver eyed her, offered to grab the bag with a kind nod. She waved him off, sharp and quick. Too quick. Taking a shaky breath, she hefted it into the trunk herself. Sliding into the cab, she told him Yongsan, north of the Nakdong River. Her nerves twitched as she stole a glance at the driver. His silence eased her a fraction. The taxi peeled out of the urban glow. Young Yu-young sank into the back seat, staring out the window in quiet. Buildings thinned, giving way to endless mountains and fields. Her eyes flicked up, caught the driver's in the rear view. She didn't flinch, played it off, lost in a storm of thoughts. The driver tried sparking small talk, but Young Yu-young barely nodded. Her answers clipped, eyes glued to the window. A flicker of unease crossed his mind. Something off, but he let it slide, keeping quiet. By 1 a.m., the taxi rolled into Yongsan's outskirts. Along the Nakdong River, dense trees loomed, their rustling leaves the only sound in a stillness that prickled the skin. Wild grass sprouted tall, some higher than a person, shrouding the woods in shadow. Young Yu-young sensed they were close. She leaned forward, voice low. "Pull over here, I'll be right back." Down she went, wrestling that hefty suitcase from the trunk, brushing off the driver's eager offers to help. Then she vanished into the forest, dragging the case behind her. It scraped the muddy turf, a gritty, scritch-scratch echoing as she stumbled over uneven ground to a secluded nook. Overgrown weeds formed a natural curtain, perfect for hiding secrets no one should see. There, she dumped the contents, scattering them bit by bit. Done, she hauled the now light suitcase back the way she came, its weight slashed, steps quicker. In no time, she was back at the cab. The driver had waited 20 minutes, his unease growing, eyes darting to her as she climbed in. Then, click, the doors locked. He didn't budge, engine still. Jung Yu-jung opened her mouth, but he cut her off, voice trembling. I called the cops already. Stay put, he urged. Let the police sort it out. Panic surged through her. She hadn't seen this coming. Her mind raced, but she plastered on a blank face, playing it cool. Time froze. Each ticking second dragged like a weight. They sat stiff in that cab, silence thick and suffocating, neither daring to crack it. Rewind a few minutes, 1:30 a.m. Busan police got a call that jolted the night shift. It was the driver. Picked up a girl downtown around midnight. She had this heavy suitcase. Told me to head to a remote forest by the Nakdong and Yongsan. She dragged it off into the trees. To know what she did. She's on her way back now. Kept me from touching it. Wouldn't talk. Real shady. Get here quick. It was the dead of night, skeleton crew on duty, and Yongsan's outskirts were a trek. Cops told him to hang tight, stay safe. Help was coming, but it'd take time. Dawn still hours off. Sirens shattered the rural hush. Police finally screeched in, spotting the lone taxi parked roadside. Officers bolted over as the driver, face taut with nerves, wrapped the window. Relief flooded him like a lifeline. He flung the door open, spilling the story fast. Cops peered inside, back seat. A young woman, mask up, head bowed, face a mystery. They circled to the trunk, popped it, and there it was. A black suitcase, dark streaks dried on its shell. Blood, unmistakable. The driver blanched, heart pounding. He had dodged a bullet himself. They unzipped it. Inside, a phone and an eye, neither hers. Suddenly, Jung Yu-jung clutched her stomach, wailing loud that her period had hit. Her face twisted in mock agony. Cops, caught off guard, shuttled her to a Busan hospital for a check. Meanwhile, the rest fanned out, tracing the driver's tip into the shadowy woods. But Jung Yu-jung wasn't bleeding. She flipped her story fast. I got pregnant by mistake, she croaked. We didn't want it. Snuck out here at night to deal with it. Her words hung shaky, desperate. The cops' sweep soon shredded that lie. Scattered body parts turned up in the forest, DNA matching the blood on her suitcase. Not a baby, an adult woman. Jung Yu-jung's deceit stacked higher with every breath. Dig deeper. Born 99 in Busan, her life was rough from the jump. At 1, her mom died in a crash. By 6, her dad bailed for a new start, leaving her behind. Grandparents took her in. An old house in West Jumjong became home. When Grandma passed, it was just her and Grandpa, scraping by on his meager pension, barely enough to keep the lights on. To Grandpa and the neighbors, Jung Yu-jung was a good kid. Gentle face, quiet, obedient, but she kept to herself. No friends, a lone shadow. Classmates, when quizzed, drew blanks. Her? No memory of her. In 2018, high school diploma in hand, college wasn't an option. Money too tight. She wanted work fast, so she set her sights on Korea's civil service exam. Stable, cushy benefits, a lifeline out of the muck. It's a brutal gauntlet. Thousands claw over a single plank bridge, as fierce as any top-tier university gate. But the bar's low. High school grads can try. For Jung Yu-jung, it was her shot to flip her fate. Reality bit harder than she'd dreamed. Her shaky school smarts didn't cut it. Years of tests scraping past the written round, only to crash at the interview. Her phone? 0 chats, a digital void. She lived cut off from the world. Beyond exam prep, her lone thrill was crime novels, devoured from library stacks since cash couldn't buy them. No rap sheet, no red flags. Yet her motive gnawed at everyone's curiosity. Cops ID'd the victim, Lee Eun-hai. Name changed, 26. A Busan University of Foreign Studies student in Jumjong district. She rented a solo spot nearby, tutoring English on the side for cash. Hired via a home teaching app, she glowed with top reviews. One chat in her app history hooked the investigator's eyes. A parent seeking a tutor for their daughter, but the tone felt off, awkward. Lee Eun-hai brushed it off at first, but the stranger pressed, urgent, pushy, asking if she lived alone, offering to bring the kid right to her door. They locked in a lesson for May 26th afternoon. That parent in the app registered as Young Yu-young, the prime suspect. Investigators pushed into Lee Eun-hai's condo. The air hit them thick with a rancid stench, chaos reigning inside. Dark liquid pooled, unscrubbed, across the floor. Body fragments lay strewn like grim confetti. DNA tests confirmed it, all Lee Eun-hai's. Forensics pinned her death to late afternoon or evening. May 26th, neck veins slashed, lungs punctured, her body riddled with hundreds of wounds. Cops scoured nearby security cams. At 5:30 p.m., a girl in a high school uniform slipped into Lee Eun-hai's place. An hour later, she strutted out in different clothes, face-matched Young Yu-young. Slammed with ironclad evidence, she squirmed. When I got there, someone had already hurt her. The real killer forced me to finish it. But the cams told no such tale. No one else crossed that threshold but her. One snag kept nagging the cops. Why? Digging revealed no ties between Young Yu-young and Lee Eun-hai. No grudges. No history. Days of grilling squeezed out a flimsy excuse. We argued, I lost it and snapped. No one bought it. Posing as a student targeting her, it reeked of premeditation, not a hot-headed fluke. May 31st, Young Yu-young cracked, spilling her real drive. Crime stories hooked me. Read so many, I got curious, wanted to kill just to feel it. Deeper probes peeled back layers, unveiling a chilling, twisted truth. 3 months before the kill, she'd started plotting. Online, she devoured ways to ditch a body, zeroing in on targets. She grabbed a tutoring app, signed up as a parent, hunting an English tutor for her daughter, reaching out to 54 prospects. All shared a profile, college students, her age bracket. She'd probe. You live alone? Cool if my kid comes to your place for lessons? Most brushed her off. Too weird, too pushy. May 23rd, 3 days before the murder, she rang her dad for a 2-hour scream fest. Emotions boiled over. She railed at the man who ditched her as a kid. Apologize, she demanded, voice raw. You wrecked my life. Next day, she hooked Lee Eun-hee. Distance almost killed it. Lee wavered, but Young Yu-young pressed hard. Live alone? I'll bring my girl for a trial run. Her relentless pleading won. They set it for Friday afternoon, 5:30 p.m., post-class. 2 days out, she prepped. Snagged an old high school uniform online, chopped her long locks shoulder length, tying a tight braid to play the part. May 26th, game on. Hair up, uniform on. She masked as a teen, murder tools stashed inside. At 5:30 p.m., she hit Lee Eun-hee's condo and struck. Fatal. Fast. She swapped into clean clothes from the victim's closet. Let her hair down. For hours, she ping-ponged between home and the scene, grabbing tools from a nearby supermarket, hauling a suitcase from her place. She carved up the body, stuffed parts in the case, and by midnight, taxied to Yongsan to dump it. That's where they nabbed her. The evidence screamed intent. Young Yu-jung's crime wasn't some spur-of-the-moment itch, despite her claims. Cops went public with her identity, a rare move in South Korea. Under the law, suspects get the innocent until proven guilty shield. Personal details and photos stay locked tight pre-conviction. But this case's sheer brutality, its ripple of dread through society, broke that mold. Her name hit the airwaves. June 2nd, 2 officers marched Young Yu-young from the station to the prosecutor's office. Reporters swarmed. She kept her head down, muttering one cryptic line. Young Yu-jung's actions are hard to fathom. She faced a psyche vow, max score 40, hit 25, and you're tagged antisocial personality disorder. First test, she fell short. Second round, 28, edging past Kang Ho-sun's 27, a notorious Korean serial killer. From 2005 to 2009, Kang prowled southwest Gyeonggi, kidnapping and butchering 10 women with cunning, ruthless precision. Exploiting their vulnerabilities, luring them to remote spots, he got the death penalty. Young Yu-young topping his score sent chills racing. shock and fear in equal measure. June 19th, young Yu Young was hauled off to Busan Detention Center, a cold new home. Prosecutors hit her hard, charging her with premeditated murder and a slew of grim add-ons. While she waited behind bars for trial, the media swarmed. Reporters tracked down anyone tied to her case. Psychologists dissecting her mind on air. Outlets peeled back her past. Clear signs of social disconnect shadowed her growing years, awkward with words cut off from others. Before the murder, she'd gone silent with friends for years, a ghost among the living. She'd fixate hard on random things, crime novels mostly, while shrugging off the rest like it didn't exist. Some experts speculated, could this tie to the autism spectrum? That aired and backlash flared. Families with autistic loved ones pushed back. Linking her crimes to autism with no proof? That's reckless, stoking bias and fear against us. Her mental state stayed a murky puzzle. No solid answers yet, but fresh clues hinted her kill plan brewed longer than she'd let on. Her diary spat venom like, no grudge settles without blood. She wouldn't cough up when it all started ticking, leaving that timeline a maddening void. The investigation peeled back a chilling layer. Before zeroing in on English tutors, young Yu Young had twice tried coaxing strangers to desolate spots through a shadowy second-hand goods app. One target, a woman in her 20s, caught her eye. She sparked a chat, smooth talking her into an in-person trade, nudging her toward a hushed Busan North walkway. A perfect trap if not for the crowd milling about, foiling her scheme. Then came a teen, mid-teens, her next mark. She dialed him up, voice cool and probing, live with family, meet me near the mountain, I'll fill you in when you're there. Her vague, insistent pitch hung in the air, but he didn't bite, skipped the hookup, leaving her high and dry again. Both times, her chats dodged any talk of trades, fixating instead on luring them out alone. The app was just a prop. Her real game was something far uglier, festering beneath the surface. October 23rd, the Busan District Court took her case. Young Yu Young faced murder charges and a slew of extras. Prosecutors painted her as ruthless, a societal menace, pushing for the death penalty. They pegged her motive, a rage festering since childhood, fused with a twisted psyche. Mom dead at 1, dad gone by 5 or 6, raised by grandpa on scraps of welfare. Her life was a grind. College dreams tanked, civil service exams slipped through her fingers. No job, no friends, just a shut-in stewing in isolation. That pent-up fury, they argued, boiled over into a monstrous act. After a month-long trial, November 23rd, the verdict dropped, guilty, murder, and more. Busan District Court weighed her age, mental state, and slapped on 30 years of electronic monitoring. Young Yu Young choked out remorse, 21 apology letters begging leniency. Prosecutors fumed. The sentence was too soft. They appealed, unsatisfied. February 24th, Busan High Court kicked off round 2. This appeal peeled back more of her life, raw and jagged. She and Grandpa clashed hard, different rhythms, frayed ties. She'd plotted escapes from home countless times. Back in 2017, still a high schooler, she'd interviewed for a golf course gig server job. The guy asked questions, she stared, silent, bombed it naturally. Yet she reapplied 2-3 times like some stubborn itch wouldn't let her quit. After a grueling month-long appeal, the High Court weighed in. Young Yu Young had no priors, showed rehab potential. Her life's rough patches, those jagged scars of growing up, meant she couldn't shoulder all the blame alone. The prosecution's death penalty push, shot down. The appellate judges upheld her life sentence from the trial court. Young Yu Young played her part well, 46 remorse letters, a steady stream of contrition. June 24th, the Supreme Court of South Korea locked it in, life behind bars, no way out. The gavel fell, case closed, but why she did it, that stayed a riddle wrapped in shadow. She'd fixated on college girls fluent in English, a venom born, maybe, from her own regrets, never making it to university herself, and a gnawing envy of peers who did. Stealing someone's identity might have been her twisted fix for that hollow ache inside. Beneath it all simmered a deep self-loathing, tangled with insecurity. Dead-end jobs, a shut-in life, piled on pressures. They stoked a furnace of rage and discontent, warping her mind until it snapped, driving her down this dark road. Still, these are just guesses. Young Yu Young's true thoughts, she holds them tight, a secret locked in her alone. Story 4. Imagine a tight-knit, upscale neighborhood. Safe, elite, the kind where security's ironclad. A dentist, freshly in love, calls it home. Then, out of nowhere, she's gone, dead. After a painstaking probe, police uncover a tangled web. A scheme so slick it took years to craft. The mastermind? A killer convinced they'd pulled off the perfect crime. So what went down that year? Dallas sits in northeast Texas, the state's third biggest city and America's ninth. Crisscrossed by railroads and highways, it's a hub where roads hum with life. That hustle's turned it into the South's beating heart for medicine, education, and finance. Just north of downtown lies Uptown, a buzzing pocket of prosperity. It's one of Dallas' liveliest spots, packed with sleek restaurants, glitzy malls, hip bars, and towering offices. Luxury condos sprout like mushrooms here. Known for its top-notch safety, Uptown draws a crowd of high-flying pros. Data pegs nearly 70% with bachelor's degrees or higher. And it's right here, in this vibrant, guarded enclave, that our story unfolds. Born February 3, 1980, in Springfield, Illinois, Kendra grew up in an ordinary family. Even as a kid, she turned heads with her beauty. In school, she wasn't just a star pupil. She threw herself into sports and clubs with gusto. By high school, she captained the cheer squad and the girls' volleyball team, a double crown that made her a campus standout. After graduating, she hit DePaul University, then honed her craft at the University of Kentucky's dental school, earning her Doctor of Dental Surgery degree. Once licensed, she poured her passion into dentistry, volunteering like it was her calling. She even jetted to Ecuador, fixing kids' teeth for free in poor villages. Kendra's heart was gold. She adored animals, couldn't bear hurting even an ant. Spot a stray cat or dog, she'd stop dead, kneel to pet them, slip them a treat. Friendly to a fault, she lifted everyone around her. Friends swore her laugh alone warmed the room, made life a notch brighter. But despite her kindness, love hadn't been kind back. A busted marriage left her reeling, the ache lingering long after the papers were signed. In 2010, Kendra Hatcher hit the reset button and landed in Dallas, renting a swanky uptown condo. She snagged a dentist gig that fit her like a glove, and after a few years of grit and grind, life there felt plush. She had a job she adored, a tight crew of pals, days filled with strolls through chic malls and bars, yoga sessions, the works. Her world buzzed with color. Only one piece was missing, a soulmate to share it with. She was itching to dive back into love. Then came May 2015. Swiping through a dating app in her downtime, Kendra's I caught a spark. A guy radiating energy, handsome with a bio that clicked right into her vibe. Enter Ricardo Ricky Paniagua, hailing from Northern California. Ricky was born in 1907, raised in a rundown trailer with a family scraping by, but he clawed his way up, acing his way into Stanford Medical School. Years of interning at hospitals honed him into a slick dermatologist. Patients raved about his skill, his care. With a bright face and hair spike just so, he had a magnetic pull. By 2011, he'd planted roots in Dallas, fresh off a near 3-year romance that had just fizzled out. Maybe it was their shared doctor's life, but Kendra felt a pull toward Ricky from the jump. After days of online banter, they met face-to-face on May 24, 2015, and sparks flew. Values aligned, both med pros. They talked non-stop, like old souls reconnecting. Love locked in fast. As they peeled back each other's layers, certainty grew. This was the kindred spirit they'd both been hunting. Just 2 weeks later, on June 7th, Kendra went public on Facebook, posting a cozy pic with Ricky as her new profile shot. Soon, her feed bloomed with sweet smitten snaps. They jetted off to San Francisco for a getaway, even started house hunting and wedding talks. From first date on May 24th to going official by June 7th to engagement whispers by August, it was a whirlwind romance on turbo speed. September 3rd, 2015 loomed bright. Ricky and Kendra prepped for a Cancun escape, Mexico's tourist gem, then a trip to her Illinois hometown to nail down wedding plans with family. Kendra was floating on air with this lightning strike love. Yoga sessions turned into giggle fits. She couldn't hold it in. They brimmed with hope, sketching a golden future. Barring some freak twist, they'd be hitched soon. But right before their getaway, disaster struck. On the night of September 6, 2015, Kendra wrapped a long shift. Thinking of tomorrow's trip with Ricky, joy bubbled up inside her. She barely noticed pulling into her condo's garage, but as she parked, a shadow darted behind her. A deafening crack split the air. She crumpled in a pool of blood. A neighbor caught the gunshot's echo and dialed 911 fast. Cops raced to the scene, but it was too late. Kendra wasn't breathing. A check revealed a bullet to the back of her head. No witnesses, just scraps of clues, leaving police grasping at thin air. The sudden blast sent shockwaves through her Lux condo and uptown safe streets. This was a high-end haven, a magnet for single women drawn by its security. Now a shooting? Fear locked doors tight after dark. The heat was on. Cops faced a firestorm to crack the case. First up, Ricky, her boyfriend. When one half of a couple drops, the other's always a suspect. But they were in their honeymoon phase. House plans, wedding dreams, a trip tomorrow, no motive. Plus, his alibi was rock solid. Suspicion slid off him quick. Ricky was gutted hearing Kendra was gone. He told police she was sunshine, open, warm, no booze, no drugs. Who'd do this to her? I can't even guess. Friends backed him up. She was gold, genuine to her core. Call her at 3 a.m., she'd chat. No complaints. Everyone loved her. With revenge or romance off the table, the cops leaned hard into the obvious. An armed robbery gone wrong. At the crime scene, Kendra's wallet, camera, and pricey gear were missing. Classic snatch and grab signs. But then a big break. The garage's patchy security cam caught something. Right before Kendra rolled in, a black Jeep slipped into the frame. She parked. A man stepped out of the Jeep, shadowing her. 40 seconds later, he's back in the rear seat, and the Jeep peels out fast. The cam missed the gunshot, but the timing scream set up. This wasn't random. They'd come for her. 2 players at least, a driver and a shooter. The footage was blurry. Only the driver's silhouette pegged as female. No face, no plates, just a grainy ghost. Still, one detail popped. The Jeep was a Grand Cherokee, distinctive enough to chase. That's all they had for now. Cops threw the video out to the public. Anyone recognize this ride? Quick as a flash, Jose, an auto shop owner, rang in. That's my Jeep, he said. He tricked it out with custom rims, hard to miss. Rented it out September stew a woman named Brenda. And here's the kicker. Brenda Delgado, Ricky's ex Brenda Delgado, came into the world in 1982, born to a struggling Mexican family. Her parents raised 5 kids. She was the second, the only girl in a home stretched thin. Seeking a better shot, they uprooted to Dallas, Texas. They landed in Pleasant Grove, a low-income southeast pocket. But to them, Dallas gleamed with promise, a fresh start worth fighting for. Her dad hauled bricks on construction sites. Her mom scrubbed floors at the post office. Money was tight, life tougher. Brenda saw it all, the grind fueling her hunger for more. A happy life, a way out of the dirt. She threw herself into school, acing classes, earning teachers' praise. After hours, she hustled at flower shops and diners, chipping in for the family. By 2000, high school diploma in hand, Brenda dreamed big, college, a real career. But cash was a ghost. Her family couldn't swing it. That unfulfilled dream haunted her, a lifelong ache. Drawn to medicine, she nabbed a gig as a dental assistant, then slid into a spa gig whitening teeth. Work gave her wings. She moved in with friends, paycheck steady but slim. Still, she'd strut uptown's ritzy malls and bars with her crew, looking every inch the urban success story. August 2012 flipped her script. Swiping through a dating app, she locked eyes with Ricky Paniagua, already a hotshot dermatologist and assistant prophet UT Southwestern Medical Center. Their date sparked fast. Ricky fell for her confidence, her drive. They clicked, diving into love. 3 months later, Brenda moved into his Dallas pad and they shacked up for real. Brenda loved Ricky fierce. She hauled him to meet her family, her friends, showing him off like a prize. On his birthday, she poured her heart into a post. Happy birthday to the most amazing, brilliant man I know. Ricky, we've shared so much joy. You're my best friend and I love you with every beat of my heart. I can't imagine life without you. For nearly 2 years, Brenda and Ricky's romance held steady. Then, in 2013, Brenda got pregnant with his kid. After tough talks, they chose not to keep it, a blow that crushed her spirit. By July 2014, cracks split them open. Ricky pushed to end it, wise murky, and Brenda nearly buckled under the weight. She clawed to hold on, begging him back, and they patched it up. But, come February 2015, it snapped for good. A clean break, no turning back. They both knew it was over, though stray texts kept them loosely tied. Ricky shrugged it off. We went from lovers to just friends, no bad blood. May 2015 rolled in and Ricky met Kendra. New sparks flew fast. 3 months later, she's dead, gunned down. Could Brenda, seething with jealousy over her ex's new flame, have pulled the trigger? It's a classic twist. Cops see it all the time. They hauled her back to the station, grilling her hard. Brenda faced the heat with eerie calm. Cool, collected, chatting smoothly, not a bead of sweat. She even tried cozying up to the officers, all smiles and charm. Most folks, even innocent, crack a little under that spotlight. Nerves kick in. Brenda steady as stone. Too steady, raising red flags. But then a curveball. Her alibi was airtight. The day Kendra died, Brenda was buried in books with pals at a bookstore and library. Noon to 6, then hit a restaurant, receipt stamped, 8:57 p.m. No window to kill. Still, that Jeep rental was hers. Cold fact. Cornered, she tossed out a line. I lent it to a friend, Christo, where he took it. No clue. Cops dragged Christo in next. A live wire of a woman, all chatter and bounce. She spun a wild one. A masked guy jammed a gun in my back. Forced me to drive. I didn't know about any shooting. Masked. Huh? No ID possible. But the footage shredded her story. After the shooter bailed, she didn't bolt. She waited, cool as ice, for him to hop back in. No coercion there. Caught in the lie, Christo flipped her tune. I just drove to the garage to meet a buddy. That guy hitched a ride. That's it. No clue about a gun. Who's the buddy? Who's the guy? She clammed up. Blank. Finally, she cracked. Brenda paid me $500 to hit that lot. Said it was to swipe Kendra's wallet and ID. I'm broke. Job bingo. Christo drove that Jeep tied straight to the hit. Cops locked her up for more digging. Brenda, her chill vibes scream suspicion now. They switched tactics, baited her hard. We get it, Brenda. You were jealous. Kendra had the better start, the looks, and your ex. That envy boiled over. You had to take her out. No dice. Brenda stayed ice cold. Ricky and I split clean. No grudges, no motive. Then she shut it down. I'm done talking. Keep pushing. A lawyer up. Her alibi held like steel, and with no smoking gun tying her to the kill, cops had to cut her loose, grudgingly. Don't skip town, they warned. Be ready for a summons. She nodded, then bolted to Mexico the second she walked out. With Brenda gone, cops zeroed in on the shooter. Christo's word and phone logs led them to a mobile number and a car. After tailing it, they nabbed him. Christopher Love, 31. A lanky African-American guy with a rap sheet longer than a city block. Teen thefts, muggings, beatdowns, illegal guns. Now a drifter, peddling weed to scrape by. One glance at his record and cops knew. Right guy. Love stonewalled them, though. Never heard of Christo or Brenda. No clue what you're on about. I've got an alibi. He stuck to his guns, but a search of his ride turned up a Smith & Wesson .40 under the dash. Ballistics nailed it. The bullet in Kendra's skull came from that barrel. Game over. Prosecutors slapped him with first-degree murder on the spot. Digging deeper, the threads tightened. From August 1st to September 30th, Brenda and Christo swapped 26 calls. Love and Christo plus Brenda pinged dozens more. Their phone signals crisscrossed like a spiderweb, too synced to be chance. Brenda was in this up to her neck, but that ironclad alibi, plus no eyewitness, left cops with empty hands. The lead prosecutor pivoted to Christo for a break. Single mom, 6-year-old son, ailing mother. She was desperate to cut a deal. They dangled a sweet plea. 35 years, parole shot after 15. A slap compared to the death penalty. Catch, spill the whole truth, and testify against the real puppet master. Christo didn't blink, signed it fast, and sang. Brenda's the brains, she said. I was broke, kid to feed. Life was hell. Brenda tracked me down, said she wanted Kendra gone. Offered 500. I said yes. Then we roped in love. Brenda promised him weed and cash. He didn't even flinch, jumped right in. September still rolled out the plan. They stalked Kendra, Christo behind the wheel, Love ready with the gun. After the hit, Brenda slid Christo 500 cash. Proof still snapped on her phone. The truth blazed clear. Brenda was the cold-blooded mastermind pulling every string. Ricky couldn't wrap his head around it. To him, Brenda was decent. Sure, they'd split, but stayed civil, even friendly. After Kendra's murder, she'd offered help, all sweet concern. 3 years together, he choked to cops, and I never saw this monster hiding inside her. Her family reeled too. Brenda's mom told reporters, tears in her eyes. No way. It's a mistake. She's gentle, beautiful, a devout Christian, obedient, not wicked. But facts don't bend. Cops launched a manhunt. Brenda had already bolted to Mexico, vanishing into the shadows. Stateside efforts hit a wall. By 2016, the FBI slapped her on their top 10 most wanted list. Only the 9th woman ever to make that grim roster. They warned the public, don't approach her. She's a master manipulator, dangerous as hell. Get on that list and escape's a pipe dream. Sure enough, with Mexican police closing in, Brenda, holed up in Torreon, northern Mexico, knew the game was up. April 2016. She turned herself in, guilt too heavy to outrun. But a snag popped up. Mexico balked at extradition, worried she'd face the death penalty stateside. Prosecutors cut a deal, cap it at life in prison, no lethal needle. Only then did Mexico hand her over, shipping her back to Dallas for trial. October 2018, Love's reckoning came. With Christo's damning testimony, and that Smith & Wesson as the smoking gun, the jury took just 2 hours to seal his fate. Guilty, death row. Christo, thanks to her plea, skipped trial. 35 years locked up, no parole shot for 15. May 20th, Brenda faced the courtroom. Stone-faced, she wouldn't even glance at Kendra's family. No flicker of regret, still denying it all. But the evidence piled high. Christo's words, witness accounts, and cops pieced the bloody puzzle back together, step by brutal step. Even after splitting with Ricky, Brenda couldn't let him go. She engineered chance run-ins, hitting his gym, jogging his trails, popping up at his favorite haunts. She had secretly kept his apartment key, hoarded his email password, sneaking into his inbox to pore over his photos, tracking his every move like a ghost. She craved control, desperate to reel him back. But Ricky had moved on, his heart now Kendra's. When that hit her, those sugary vacation pics Kendra splashed across Facebook, the whispers of wedding bells, Brenda snapped. The idea of another woman stealing her man burned her up inside, twisting into a wild, vengeful fury aimed square at Kendra. First, she tapped her cousin, pitching him a grim gig, bash Kendra with a baseball bat, hard as he could swing. She dangled a car or cash as bait. He later testified, I thought she was drunk, rambling crazy, I didn't bite. Rebuffed, Brenda turned to her bestie, Jennifer, with a darker deal, club Kendra senseless or spike her with drugs to knock her out cold. In return, a car, $2,000 and a stash of dope. Jennifer spilled to cops, I told my folks, they said she'd lost it, I said no way. Brenda was obsessed with Ricky, sick-level stuff, always yapping about him. I was gonna room with her, but when she wouldn't shut up about him and started plotting Kendra's death, I saw danger and bailed. Next, Brenda hit up an old high school pal, begging him to teach Kendra a lesson. Another flat no. Truth is, she'd been loud about it, hounding anyone who would listen to rough Kendra up. No takers until Christo. Christo's words sealed it. I was dirt poor, 500 dangled like a lifeline. I said yes in a daze. 2 women might botch it, so they roped in love. A neighbor's buddy met by chance at a hangout. When Brenda clocked his rap sheet, she spun a tall tale. I'm with the cartel, big-time drug ring. Take out one person and I'll flood you with dope and cash. Love, a crook born and bred, didn't blink. Hooked fast. The trio hatched a kill plan. Brenda tossed out options: gunshot, overdose, kidnapping. Love picked the simplest, a bullet. He had a gun handy, it stuck. They knew Kendra's Cancun trip was set for September 3rd. Perfect window. Hit her September 2nd. Brenda schemed what she thought was a flawless crime. Step 1, the ride. She borrowed a friend's BMW, then swung by Jose's auto shop, whining about repairs to snag his Jeep Cherokee. A slick swap to muddy the trail. Next came timing the hit. Brenda had Christo drop her at the library by noon, meeting pals to study, rock-solid cover. By 6 p.m., she rallied Jose and crew for dinner at a restaurant. Receipt in hand, her alibi stitched tight. While she chewed, Christo and Love struck. They staked out Kendra's condo garage, waiting. Kendra's car rolled in. Love leapt out, gun blazing. He swiped her wallet and camera too, staging a robbery gone bad. Brenda rang to confirm the deed, then told Christo to ditch the Jeep back at Jose's. Next day, the cops aired the garage footage. Brenda spun a quick lie to Jose. Christo might have used it to move drugs. Ditch that Jeep, repaint it, stay clean. Then she pinged Love and Christo hundreds of calls, tying it all together. They'd synced their stories. If cops came knocking, deny everything, pile on lies. But Jose and his family huddled up, then tipped the police, cracking the case wide open. Christo's testimony, Ricky's words, witness accounts, hard evidence. It all clicked. The jury took just 20 minutes to call it guilty. Death row loomed for Brenda, but that Mexico deal capped it. Life without parole instead. Ricky sat shattered in court, couldn't even glance her way, until cops pressed him to ID the accused. He turned, eyes locking on her for a fleeting beat, then away. All 3 killers faced justice, but for Kendra's family, the wound stayed raw, a lifetime scar. Her sister broke down on the stand. Anyone who knew her, really knew her, remembers her laugh most. She loved life, poured love into everyone, gave all she had. When I heard this happened, I couldn't fathom who'd hurt her. Here's the twist. After Love's death sentence, voices piped up, crying foul, claiming the trial was rigged. They argued the gun in his car wasn't the murder weapon. No prints, no DNA linking him to the shot. Christo's words, lies, they said, cooked up to save herself. They pinned it on a racist jury, stacking the deck against a black man. A petition for his freedom launched, 803 backers so far. Prosecutors silent on it. Truth is, at Love's trial, Christo swore under oath, every word gospel, or she'd face the needle herself, no reason to fake it. Looking back, Brenda rose from dirt-poor roots, clawing her way up. To the world, she was kind, devout, a good girl. But when love slipped away, darkness swallowed her whole. Obsession turned to hate, and a polite stranger brewed a lethal storm inside. Meanwhile, a good woman, clueless, became its prey. What a damn shame. Story 5. We'll dive into a chilling case, ranked among Singapore's 9 most horrific crimes of 2000. At the crime scene, aside from a single key, no other clues were found. This shocking murder sent shockwaves through Singapore like a storm, leaving the nation in disbelief. So what happened that year? Now, let's travel back to the year 2000 to explore this bizarre murder case in Singapore. Singapore is likely a familiar name to many of you. While our channel has covered several cases from this country, it's actually a very safe place. According to the 2024 Global Peace Index, Singapore ranks 5th among the world's most peaceful nations and has repeatedly been rated the second most peaceful country in the Asia-Pacific region. The laws here are strict with harsh penalties. For instance, littering in Singapore can result in a fine of up to 2,000 Singapore dollars for a first offense, and repeat offenders may face fines as high as 10,000 Singapore dollars. Under such stringent legal oversight, violent crimes in Singapore are relatively rare. Yet, even in the safest places, there are always those willing to take risks, like the story we're about to explore today. August 9, 2000 was Singapore's National Day. The entire nation was filled with joy, streets adorned with vibrant decorations, and the country immersed in celebration. But in a quiet corner of the city, a gruesome scene was unfolding. Chestnut Avenue, Bukit Batok, Singapore, a serene area near the city's largest nature park. Known for its clean environment, 3 middle school students were cycling through, heading to school for a National Day celebration. They were chatting and laughing as they rode, but as they reached a secluded stretch of road, one of them suddenly stopped. The boy stared at the roadside bushes and said, "Listen, I think someone's here." His 2 friends looked skeptical. "In a remote place like this, who'd be here?" they replied. Unconvinced by their doubts, the boy cautiously approached the bushes. The moment he parted the grass, a blood-soaked body appeared before him. The sight was so horrifying that he screamed, scrambling back in terror. The 3 students immediately reported the discovery to the police. Upon receiving the report, the police rushed to the scene. After examination, they confirmed the victim was a middle-aged man with multiple bruises on his head. The fatal wounds were 4 deep stab marks to the chest, each one lethal. The estimated time of death was within the past 12 to 24 hours. Strangely, despite the severity of the injuries, there were no defensive wounds on the victim's body. The coroner deduced that at the time of the attack, the victim was either unconscious or restrained, unable to fight back. The crime scene was in a remote area with no surveillance cameras. The police split into 3 teams to search the surrounding area, eventually finding a key with a metal ring in nearby bushes. Beyond that, no other clues were uncovered. Through DNA analysis, the victim's identity was confirmed. Kon Gayap Yong, a 42-year-old taxi driver, father of 3, and a man with a happy family life. According to his family, Ko had driven his daughter to school around 6:10 a.m. on August 8th, after which he lost contact. That evening, when he didn't return home, his wife reported him missing to the police. Tragically, the next day she received the devastating news of his murder. After investigating and gathering information, the police learned that Kon Gayap Yong was a kind, honest man who loved his family deeply and had no known enemies, allowing them to tentatively rule out a revenge killing. Additionally, when found, the victim's money had been completely taken, leading the police to suspect that greed may have been the motive. They believe the key to solving this case lay with Kon Gayap Yong's taxi, license plate SHB 540C. Since the vehicle wasn't at the crime scene, it's likely the killer drove it away after the murder. The police mobilized a large force, launching an extensive search. At around 4:55 p.m. on August 10th, the police finally located Kon Gayap Yong's taxi in the parking lot of Block 628A, Bukit Batok Central. Unfortunately, only the vehicle was found. The killer had been meticulous, leaving no fingerprints behind. The police set up an ambush in the area for several days, but came up empty-handed. On August 26th, 18 days had passed since Kon Gayap Yong's murder. While the police were still grappling with that case, another horrific killing shook the city. A witness reported seeing 2 men openly using a gun to commit murder on the Jalan Kukoh overpass. The act was shockingly brazen. Singapore is known as one of the safest countries in the world with strict gun control laws. For someone to dare fire a gun in broad daylight on a public street was nothing short of reckless. When the police arrived at the scene, the crowd of curious onlookers on the overpass had long dispersed. All that remained was the body of a middle-aged man lying on the ground, his face disfigured, with bullet wounds to his head and chest. Blood splattered everywhere. Through investigation, The victim was identified as Jahaber Sathik, a 39-year-old currency exchange businessman. Born in India, he was a permanent resident of Singapore. On the day of the incident, Sathik had just finished work at a bank. Moments after stepping outside, he was ambushed by robbers. Despite agreeing to hand over his money, the thugs shot him mercilessly. This brutal scene unfolded in a bustling central area with many passers-by, and several witnesses saw the attack. The case quickly made headlines and became a trending topic online. In just 18 days, 2 murders had struck Singapore back-to-back. After hearing the news, the public was gripped by fear, worried they might one day face a similar fate. Authorities issued an urgent order to solve the cases as quickly as possible. The police still had no leads on Kon Gayap Yang's murder, and now, with another case on their hands, the pressure to crack both was unimaginable. According to witnesses at the scene, there were 2 perpetrators, both armed with guns. They demanded Sathik hand over his money before taking his life. The forensics team found a bullet casing near the overpass, but unfortunately, the killers had disguised themselves, and no one saw their faces. At this point, Sathik's family provided a lead for the investigation. They mentioned that due to his job, Sathik always carried a phone with him, usually keeping it in the same bag as his money. That day, the robbers had taken Sathik's bag, and the family suggested the killers might not have discarded the phone, offering a potential clue. With a better-than-nothing mindset, the police decided to check. To their surprise, they hit a breakthrough. Sathik's phone was still being used by the perpetrators, either out of sheer stupidity or blatant disregard for the police. Police technicians meticulously analyzed the phone's call logs, eventually identifying 3 suspects: Camille, 33, Ibrahim, 35, and Rosli, 30. On October 15th, the police launched their operation. To ensure a smooth arrest, they devised a detailed plan, splitting into 3 teams to act simultaneously. In the end, they successfully apprehended all 3 suspects. After verification, Camille and Ibrahim were confirmed as the culprits who robbed and killed Sathik. During a search of Camille's apartment, the police discovered a Smith & Wesson revolver, a Colt semi-automatic pistol, and 8 pairs of handcuffs. However, there were only 7 corresponding handcuff keys. One was missing. The officers stared at the keys with an eerie sense of familiarity, as if they had seen them before. Suddenly, it clicked. Weren't these identical to the key found at Kon Gayap Yong's crime scene? It was like finding a needle in a haystack. Kon Gayap Yong's murder might also be linked to these men. While investigating the 3 suspects, a friend of Camille provided a crucial tip, revealing that Camille had a locker at the Choa Chu Kang shopping center, where he often hid suspicious items. Acting on this lead, the police rushed to Choa Chu Kang and, sure enough, found a dagger wrapped in newspaper inside the locker. This was no ordinary dagger. It was a standard military bayonet, about 13 centimeters long with an extremely sharp blade, serrated on one side and designed to be attached to a rifle. Though the dagger appeared clean, the Singapore Health Sciences Authority detected traces of blood inside its handle. DNA testing confirmed the blood belonged to Kon Gayap Yong. Additionally, the police verified that the 7 keys recovered from Kamal's apartment matched the key found at Kon Gayap Yong's crime scene in structure, design, and size. Moreover, they perfectly fit the 8th pair of handcuffs. With this, Camille was now tied to Kon Gayap Yong's murder with undeniable evidence. Seeing their crimes exposed and knowing they could no longer hide, the 2 accomplices sought leniency by confessing their involvement in Kon Gayap Yong's murder. The Singapore police breathed a sigh of relief. After months of investigation, the case was finally coming to light, and they could report progress to the public. But the story doesn't end there. The 3 suspects were transferred to Singapore's High Court to await trial, and the real drama was just beginning. On October 18, 2000, the prosecution charged Camille, Ibrahim, and Rosli with first-degree murder. What followed was a complex trial. Sathik's case was straightforward due to eyewitness accounts, making the sentencing relatively simple. However, the trial for Kon Gayap Yong's murder proved far more complicated. With no witnesses, the court had to rely on the suspect's statements to reconstruct the truth. but their accounts starkly contradicted each other, resembling a classic Rashomon scenario. The three turned on each other in court, skillfully shifting blame and pointing fingers, each desperate to evade responsibility. Let's start with Camille's testimony. He stated, "A while back, I traveled to Thailand and bought 2 handguns and a dagger for self-defense. Perfectly reasonable. On August 8th, at around 10:45 a.m., I brought these items to meet Ibrahim and Rosalie at a cafe in Western Bukit Batok. They were both broke and didn't want to work, so we discussed robbing a jewelry store. That day, I carried a handgun loaded with 6 bullets, a Colt semi-automatic. I prepared a backpack for Rosalie, an Adidas one, containing the dagger, a pair of handcuffs, a mask, and gloves. For Ibrahim, I packed a Timberland backpack with a Smith & Wesson handgun, another pair of handcuffs, a mask, and a hammer. Before we acted, Rosalie suggested we secure a getaway car first. Waiting to call a taxi after the robbery would be too risky. It made sense, so we planned to steal a car. But after an hour of trying, not only did we fail to steal a vehicle, we nearly got caught by patrolling police. At that point, Rosalie came up with another idea. We'd stop a taxi, restrain the driver, and release him after robbing the jewelry store. I was hesitant about this plan, but before I could decide, they had already flagged down a taxi. The driver was Kon Gayap Yong. Ibrahim sat in the front passenger seat, while Rosalie and I sat in the back. I wanted to head straight to Woodlands, where there are plenty of jewelry stores and banks. Easy targets. But the other two thought we should restrain the driver first. There's a secluded spot on Chestnut Avenue, perfect for hiding someone, so we went there. Once we arrived, they threatened the driver to get out of the car. Terrified, he kept pleading, "Don't kill me. Don't kill me. I'll give you all my money." To intimidate him, I pulled out my handgun and waved it around. It worked. He got out immediately and tried to run. Rosalie quickly grabbed him, cuffed his hands with the handcuffs, and dragged him into the bushes. A minute or two later, Rosalie came out of the bushes with the dagger covered in blood and the handcuffs in hand. He said he'd stabbed the driver 3 or 4 times. This was completely off script. Our original plan was just to steal the car, not to harm anyone. But the deed was done, and there was no turning back. We had to leave the scene. Ibrahim then drove us to Woodlands. In the car, we split over 500 Singapore dollars from the driver's wallet. Woodlands has plenty of jewelry stores, but the incident left us rattled, so we didn't dare act rashly. We decided to disguise ourselves, buy new shirts, get haircuts. While they were getting their haircut, I scouted the nearby jewelry stores and noticed cameras everywhere, so we abandoned the robbery plan entirely. After wandering around Woodlands with nothing to show for it, we returned to Bukit Batok. Ibrahim handled the car, wiping down fingerprints, while Rosalie and I waited for him at the subway station. Once he returned, we watched a movie, then each went home. Around 5 p.m., I got home, took a shower, and planned to throw away the jeans I'd worn and the dagger. But the dagger was expensive, and I couldn't bear to part with it. I cleaned it, applied anti-rust oil, wrapped it in newspaper, and stored it with another dagger I'd bought long ago in my locker. Later, I started to worry. If the crime ever came to light and the police came knocking, that dagger would be damning evidence. Plus, it had harmed someone and keeping it felt like bad luck, so I threw it away. I want to emphasize again, I never intended to harm the driver. Rosalie acted on his own and killed him. I deeply regret what happened that day, but Kanjayap Yong's death truly has nothing to do with me. That was Kamal's full account of the events. Interestingly, when disposing of the dagger, he mixed it up with another similar one and threw away the wrong knife. Perhaps this was fate at work. In his testimony, Kamal tried to paint himself as a mere follower who only supplied the weapons, claiming the real decisions were made by the other two. But is that the truth? Ibrahim and Rosalie also gave their versions of the events that day. While their accounts largely aligned with Kamal's, there were key differences in certain details. Most crucially, both insisted that Kamal was the true mastermind behind the crime. Ibrahim stated, Kamal approached Rosalie first, showing him the 2 guns and proposing the robbery plan. At first, Rosalie hesitated, but after a few meetings, he wavered. Not only did he agree to the robbery, but he also roped me in to help because of my driving skills. In early July 2000, the three of us met and officially planned the heist. In reality, Kamal's initial target wasn't a jewelry store. He had bigger ambitions, aiming to rob cash and transit couriers. On August 8th, we waited near an ATM for a long time, but after spotting the police, we had to abandon the plan to rob cash directly. As for stealing the car and killing the driver afterward, I had no part in that. I was just the driver. Rosley echoed this, claiming that Kamal orchestrated everything, being the first to suggest stealing the car and killing the driver. On the way, he directed us to Chestnut Avenue, a place he knew well. When we arrived, he pulled out his gun and ordered the driver to get out. The moment the driver saw the gun, he tried to run. Kamal handed me a pair of handcuffs and told me to stop him. At first, I only planned to hide the driver in the bushes. He kept begging me, saying he had a family and children. I didn't want to harm him, but Kamal forced me at gunpoint, ordering me to act quickly. I had no choice but to comply, stabbing the driver 4 or 5 times in the left chest, then taking the handcuffs in his wallet. When I returned to the car, I was trembling with fear. Camel, cold as ice, said, "This is the price of betrayal. I swear from start to finish, I never intended to harm the driver. It was all under Kamal's coercion. I begged the court for a chance to repent and make amends." In Rosley's testimony, we hear a completely different story. He portrays himself as a pitiful figure, forced into the crime, while casting Kamal as a cold-blooded monster who initiated all the wrongdoing. Each of the three spun their own narrative, blaming the others and distorting the truth. The judge sifted through their chaotic testimonies, confirming key details of the crime. 1. Kamil was the mastermind and the one who supplied the weapons. 2. Rosley was the one who directly killed Kunjayapyong. 3. The three suspects shared the intent to rob, and together they committed Kunjayapyong's murder. As a criminal gang, none of them could escape responsibility. Faced with these findings, the defense lawyers for the three suspects raised objections. Kamil's lawyer argued, Kamil didn't inflict any injuries on the driver, nor did he intend to harm anyone. The one who actually killed Kunjayapyong was Rosley. Only Rosley had that motive among the three. Rosley's lawyer countered, if Kamil hadn't threatened him with a gun, Rosley would never have stabbed the driver. His plan was only to hide the driver, not to kill anyone. Ibrahim's lawyer stated, his role in the entire incident was merely that of a driver. He never participated in any criminal acts. They were all planned by Kamil and Rosley. Therefore, he's innocent. Ibrahim's lawyer stated, his role in the entire incident was merely that of a driver. He never participated in any criminal acts. They were all planned by Kamil and Rosley. Therefore, he's innocent. The three defense lawyers argued fiercely in court, each showcasing their skills. They fought tooth and nail to secure the maximum leniency for their clients. Notably, one of Rosley's lawyers, David Razif, would, 5 years after this case, embark on a criminal path himself, becoming one of Singapore's most wanted fugitives. He defrauded clients of approximately 11.3 million Singapore dollars and some gold before fleeing the country in 2006. But that's a story for another time. In response to the defense arguments, the judge provided clear reasoning for the convictions. As the mastermind, Kamil not only supplied the weapons but played a central role throughout the crime. He gave the handgun to Ibrahim and the dagger to Rosley, clearly anticipating that these weapons would be used. If not, why would he have gone to the trouble of buying them in Thailand and distributing them to his accomplices? More damningly, before they got into the taxi, Kamil explicitly told Rosley to eliminate Kunjayapyong. While Rosley carried out the killing, Kamil stood guard with his gun, later ordering Ibrahim to wipe down the taxi to erase fingerprints. All of this reveals him to be a cunning and dangerous criminal with a ruthless mind. As for Ibrahim, his defense hinged on 2 main points. First, he claimed he didn't participate in the murder, and second, he insisted he was unaware of Rosley's intent to kill the driver. This was a clear attempt to downplay his role. Throughout the incident, Ibrahim remained in the car, waiting to pick up his 2 accomplices, which shows he implicitly agreed to the crime from the start and was complicit in it. His claim of not knowing Rosley intended to kill the driver lacks credibility. When the driver got out of the car, Rosley had already drawn the dagger, and Camel had even pulled out his gun. Rosley then dragged the driver into the bushes with the dagger in hand. His intent to commit a crime was obvious. There's no way Ibrahim could have been unaware. His defense was merely a pretense of ignorance, an attempt to evade responsibility. Finally, there's Rosley, who repeatedly claimed Camel forced him to act. Yet, despite the victim's desperate pleas, Rosley showed no mercy. Moreover, if he were truly coerced, there would have been no need to brutally stab the driver 4 times, each strike fatal. Even after committing such a vicious act, he calmly removed the handcuffs and took the driver's wallet. These actions reveal that Rosley wasn't coerced. He was simply trying to escape accountability. The judge stated, when a crime is committed by multiple individuals, each person bears responsibility as if they had acted alone. If you knowingly join a criminal group with a clear understanding of its purpose, you cannot seek leniency or exemption from responsibility by claiming you were later forced by your accomplices. Simply put, if you willingly participate in a crime, you must face the consequences. On September 5, 2001, after 19 days of trial, the High Court delivered its final verdict, sentencing all 3 men to death for murder. The judge noted, facing the death penalties, all 3 initially disagreed and filed appeals. However, Camel eventually withdrew his appeal and accepted the death sentence. On February 18, 2002, the court rejected Rosley and Ibrahim's appeals. In reality, even if their appeals had succeeded, Camel and Ibrahim couldn't have escaped the death penalty. They had already killed Sathik in a separate, unlawful armed robbery, so their fate was sealed regardless. On October 25, 2002, the 3 were executed by hanging at Changi Prison in Singapore, bringing this tragic chapter to a close. That concludes today's video. Reflecting on these 2 cases, they sparked heated discussions in Singapore, drawing immense public attention. The cases not only deepened the public's awareness of the cold-blooded brutality of criminals, but also prompted the government to strengthen law enforcement and public safety measures. Of course, they also serve as a reminder to citizens that, even in a country with strict laws and strong public order, crime can still occur, so vigilance and self-protection are always necessary. Story 6. We all know that taking a life is easy. It's covering up the crime that's hard. Yet, along Interstate 45 in the United States, stretching from Houston to Galveston, a chilling series of horrific crimes has unfolded over more than 30 years. Here, all it takes to get away with murder is to find a roadside forest and dump the victim's body. Over 30 women and young girls have vanished, been assaulted, and brutally murdered in this area. What's most terrifying is that there wasn't just one killer, but a group of ruthless perpetrators operating in this region. Some even say, if you want to commit a crime, come here, the police are powerless. This stretch of highway has earned a grim nickname, the Crime Sanctuary. Now, let's travel back to 1984 to uncover the chilling details of this story. Located in the south-central United States, Texas is the 2nd largest state in the country and has a controversial distinction. It's extremely lax gun control laws. With a population of 29 million, Texas leads the U.S. in privately owned firearms, boasting over 1 million guns, double the number in Florida, the state in 2nd place. Tragically, in 2021, Texas also topped the nation in gun-related deaths. Despite a string of mass shootings, many Texans remain steadfast in their belief in the right to bear arms, viewing guns as the best means of self-defense rather than relying on police protection. Tim Miller is a father who lost all faith in law enforcement. He had a daughter named Laura Lynn Miller. Born on July 17, 1968, Laura was a lovable girl with a natural talent for music, once a member of her school's choir. But fate dealt her a cruel hand. Her worsening epilepsy shattered her dreams. She had to take medication twice a day, which severely impacted her studies and forced her to abandon her passion for music. At the time, the hippie movement was sweeping through America and white powder drugs began infiltrating the youth culture. Laura and her friends weren't immune to this wave. Yet, with her family's love and support, Laura managed to lead a relatively stable life. She even had a boyfriend. But everything changed when she turned 16. On September 10, 1984, Laura excitedly told her father she wanted to invite her boyfriend over for dinner. Tim happily agreed. The Miller family had just moved to League City, Texas, an area near Interstate 45. At the time, they hadn't yet installed a landline, and mobile phones were far from common. So Laura had to use a nearby public payphone to make the call. Concerned for her daughter, Laura's mother took her lunch break to accompany her. She planned to wait until Laura finished her call, then drive her back home before returning to work. But Laura's conversation dragged on longer than expected. The 16-year-old assured her mother she'd head home right after the call. Since the payphone was only about 800 meters from their house and it was still daylight, her mother believed Laura could make it back safely on her own. So, she left her daughter at the payphone and went back to work. That night, a knock at the door echoed through the house. Tim Miller thought it was Laura returning, but when he opened the door, he saw only her boyfriend. Soon after, Laura's mother returned home as well, but with Laura still missing, they couldn't sit down for dinner together. A wave of fear washed over them, as a chilling thought crossed their minds. Could Laura have had an epileptic seizure on the way home? They rushed to their car, driving to every hospital in the area, but there was no trace of Laura. With no other options, the Millers turned to the police for help, but the officer's response left them stunned. It's not a big deal. She probably just went out with friends or ran away after a fight. She'll be back soon, the officer said dismissively. Tim Miller, gripped by overwhelming worry, tried to explain. My daughter has epilepsy and needs her medication regularly. She's in danger. In response, the officer let out a cold smirk, sneering. She's always wandering the streets. Plenty of ways to find medicine out there. Despite the small size of the police station, their refusal to take any investigative action or issue a missing person alert was utterly unacceptable. The Miller family searched tirelessly on their own while desperately waiting for any news. Days turned into weeks, weeks into months. They never stopped looking, but Laura had vanished without a trace. Hope slowly faded, replaced by a suffocating despair. Deep down, they knew Laura was likely gone forever. During his search for his daughter, Tim Miller made a horrifying discovery. Laura wasn't the only victim. In League City, particularly along Interstate 45, numerous young women had disappeared under eerily similar circumstances. One case in particular stood out. Heidi, a girl whose disappearance bore striking parallels to Laura's. On October 7, 1983, 11 months before Laura vanished, Heidi Marie Villarreal Fay, a 25-year-old bartender at the Texas Moon Bar, also disappeared without a trace. That day, she had gone to a public payphone, the very same one Laura would later use, to call her boyfriend in Houston. The payphone was located next to a convenience store. Store employees reported that after making the call, Heidi walked away and was never seen again. Her family searched desperately and reported her missing to the police, but they were met with indifference. The police brushed it off, suggesting Heidi was just out with friends and would return soon. As time passed, hope dwindled. Heidi's mother passed away from overwhelming grief while her father persisted, meticulously documenting every lead. But after months of searching, he received devastating news about his daughter. On April 4, 1984, a family living on the 3000 block of Calder Road witnessed a gruesome scene. Their dog returned from the bushes carrying a round object. At first, they thought it was a ball, but as they approached, they recoiled in horror. It was a human skull. Through dental records, the police confirmed it belonged to Heidi. Forensic analysis revealed that Heidi had been attacked with a blunt object before her death. Her ribs were fractured and the cause of death was a severe blow to the head. At the time, DNA testing technology was not yet advanced and Heidi's body was too decomposed for the police to gather any leads. Still, Heidi's father refused to give up. He compiled a list of potential suspects and urged the police to investigate, but his pleas were met with silence. Tim Miller noticed the suspicious similarities between the two disappearances. He became convinced that the same perpetrator might be responsible for both cases. Tim urged the police to excavate the area where Heidi's body was found, hoping to uncover more crucial evidence. But the police dismissed his suggestion, insisting the two cases were unrelated and would be investigated separately. Determined to seek answers, Tim took matters into his own hands. When he asked the police for the exact location where Heidi's remains were discovered, they refused to provide the information, claiming the area had been sealed off. Even more suspiciously, they warned Tim not to contact Heidi's family, citing a desire to let them grieve in peace. They issued a similar warning to Heidi's family. Not long after, Heidi's father passed away. On February 2nd, 1986, 17 months after Laura's disappearance, a group of children riding bikes stumbled upon a horrifying discovery in the same area where Heidi had been found. A strange foul odor led them to a set of remains. Forensic examination revealed the victim had been shot in the back with severe damage to the ribs and a .22 caliber bullet still lodged in the body. Due to technological limitations at the time, the victim's identity couldn't be determined, but 33 years later, in 2019, with advancements in technology, the remains were identified as those of Audrey Cook, a 30-year-old woman who had gone missing in December 1985. During the investigation, the police also discovered Laura's remains. Next to her skeleton was a blue plaid shirt. Laura was found along Interstate 45, just 3 kilometers from Tim's home. The bodies of Laura, Heidi, and Audrey were all discovered within a 100-meter radius. All 3 were lying on their backs, discarded carelessly in the grass or a dump site. The killer hadn't even bothered to bury them. They were simply tossed aside like garbage. It was only at this point that the police began to take the situation seriously. Fear gripped the community. Residents started to suspect that a serial killer was on the loose. The area where these bodies were found would later become known as the Killing Fields, a name that struck terror into the hearts of locals. But the truth is, this string of crimes had begun long before. On January 10, 1901, Texas witnessed a historic event, the discovery of the state's first major oil well south of Beaumont. Following this, oil fields were uncovered across the region, from East Texas to West Texas, and even beneath the Gulf of Mexico. The oil boom transformed Texas entirely, drawing waves of workers from across the country. During World War II, the federal government heavily invested in military bases, weapons factories, prisoner of war camps, and military hospitals. Around 750,000 Texans enlisted, many of them farmers who left their fields behind and never returned. These factors propelled Texas from an agricultural economy toward urbanization and industrialization. The influx of immigrants surged, fueling rapid economic growth. However, the first oil crisis dealt a severe blow to the Western economy, causing a sharp decline in the U.S. GDP. Recognizing the dangers of over-reliance on oil, Texas pushed to diversify its economy. But the sudden population boom brought significant challenges to law and order. Coupled with the rise of white powder drug trafficking and the influence of hippie culture, crime rates soared. Local police were understaffed and investigative techniques were limited, leaving many cases unsolved. Against this backdrop, a series of horrific murders unfolded. On June 17, 1971, Colette Wilson, a 13-year-old member of her school band, vanished under mysterious circumstances. That day, she was riding the bus home with her band director. When they reached the Irwin stop, the director dropped Colette off, and she began walking home. But from that moment, no one saw Colette again. 5 months later, her decomposed body was found near the Attucks Reservoir, with the cause of death determined to be a gunshot to the head. Just a month and a half later, on August 4, 1971, 2 other girls, Rhonda Johnson, 14, and Sharon Johnson, 13, also disappeared without a trace. The 2 were best friends, often hanging out at Clear Lake Beach and frequenting a local swimsuit shop. That day, they vanished while heading to the store. Unlike Collett's case, the police quickly launched an investigation into Rhonda and Sharon's disappearance, largely because Rhonda's grandfather was a prominent senator. In January of the following year, 2 boys fishing at Clear Lake discovered a skull, later identified as Sharon's. Her mother recognized a cross pendant on the jawbone. It was her daughter's jewelry. 6 weeks later, the rest of Sharon's remains were found in a marsh near the lake. Due to the advanced state of decomposition, the cause of death couldn't be determined. The case drew significant attention from authorities. By late May 1972, Sheriff Don Morris and Deputy Sheriff Tommy Deal took over the investigation. The two, with their hard-boiled detective personas, swiftly arrested a suspect just weeks later. The suspect, Michael Self, a man with a prior criminal record, confessed to the murders of Rhonda and Sharon under interrogation by the two officers. On May 15, 1973, Michael was sentenced to life in prison. At first glance, the case seemed resolved. However, this was one of the rare cases in the U.S. where a suspect was convicted solely based on a confession, with no direct evidence to support it. Years later, strange truths began to surface. 3 years after Michael's imprisonment, the hard-boiled detectives Don Morris and Tommy Deal were arrested for bank robbery. A shocking revelation came to light. The sheriff and his deputy had been part of a robbery gang since 1972. Don Morris was sentenced to 55 years in prison, while Tommy received 30 years. Both were later released early, but Tommy reoffended and was arrested again. This sparked public suspicion. Was Michael Self truly the killer, or had he been wrongfully convicted? Several police officers revealed that Don and Tommy frequently used violence to extract confessions. In fact, after the girls' murders, Michael had voluntarily gone to the police station to prove his innocence. But the moment he stepped inside, Morris brutally beat him. Don threatened, "I need a confession. If you don't write it, I'll shoot you." He placed bullets on the table, intimidating Michael. In the end, Michael signed a confession, but every word was dictated by the two detectives. When his statement didn't match the case details, they forced him to rewrite it multiple times. Beyond that, while in custody, the two officers staged a fake crime scene, taking Michael to the site to photograph him. These details came from Michael's account, making them difficult to verify. Many believed he was innocent. Michael himself consistently refused parole, demanding only a retrial. However, in 2000, Michael passed away in prison at the age of 52, carrying his unresolved grievances to the grave. The case of Michael Self remains controversial, but it at least had some form of closure. Meanwhile, along Interstate 45, countless other cases remained shrouded in darkness. On July 12, 1971, Brenda K. Jones, a 14-year-old girl, vanished while on her way to visit her aunt in the hospital. Her body was later found floating in Galveston Bay near Seawolf Parkway, with a piece of paper or a sock stuffed in her mouth. The cause of death was blunt force trauma to the head. 4 months later, in November 1971, two 15-year-old girls, Debbie Catherine Ackerman and Maria Talbot Johnson, also disappeared. Witnesses reported seeing them being taken by a man in a white pickup truck. On November 17th, Maria's body was found, bound, with her upper body unclothed, floating in the Turner Bayou. The next day, Debbie's body was discovered in the same area. Autopsies revealed both girls had been murdered before their bodies were dumped in the water. On January 7, 1973, the body of Kimberly Ray Pitchford, a 16-year-old girl, was found in a ditch along County Road 65. Kimberly was a quiet girl. That day marked her first driving lesson, but after the class ended, she vanished without a trace. In July 1984, Ellen Ray Simpson Beeson, a 29-year-old woman, was introduced to Clyde Hedrick by her friend Katie at the Texas Moon Bar. Clyde, a smooth-talking man who could sing and dance, quickly captured Ellen's attention. That night, they left the bar together, and Ellen vanished from that moment on. Katie, her best friend, was consumed with worry and repeatedly pressed Clyde for answers, as he was the last person to see Ellen alive, but he consistently denied any responsibility. During a heated argument, Clyde lost his temper and snapped, "You want to see Ellen? I'll take you to her." He led Katie to a dense wooded area on Old Causeway Road, where he overturned old tires and a tattered sofa. A set of skeletal remains emerged. It was Ellen, still wearing the necklace from that fateful night. Clyde threatened Katie. "If you speak a word, this will be your fate." The horrifying scene haunted Katie, and it took her nearly 6 months to muster the courage to report it to the police. Due to the humid climate, frequent storms, and tornadoes in the region, most victims' bodies were found in a heavily decomposed state, often reduced to mere skeletons. Ellen was no exception. The coroner couldn't determine her cause of death. Although Clyde was arrested, the lack of evidence meant he was only convicted of tampering with a corpse. He was fined $2,000 and sentenced to 1 year in prison. Clyde claimed that he and Ellen had gone night swimming, and when he returned to shore, he found her dead in the water. He said he intended to take her to a hospital, but, fearing he'd be suspected of murder, decided to dispose of her body instead. How much truth was there in Clyde's story? In July 1991, Donna Prudhomme, a 34-year-old woman, went missing. 2 months later, her body was discovered in a field off Calder Road, in an advanced state of decomposition. The FBI immediately launched an investigation. Using criminal profiling, they identified the suspect's likely traits. Someone who owned property near the crime scene harbored a deep resentment toward women and kept records related to the cases. Initially, all suspicion fell on Clyde, but soon other suspects emerged. Abel, a former NASA scientist who had transitioned to running a horse ranch after a successful career, became a person of interest. Notably, Abel's ranch was located near the sites where Laura and other victims were found. Abel had been through 3 failed marriages, and his ex-wives accused him of domestic violence and animal cruelty. One of them revealed that Abel had threatened her life if she didn't comply with his bizarre desires. Additionally, Abel showed an unusual interest in the cases, collecting documents and even expressing a desire to assist in the investigations. Most crucially, Abel owned a .22 caliber gun, the same type of weapon that had killed Audrey. The bullet found in Audrey's body could have been a pivotal piece of evidence, but in a tragic twist, that key evidence was inadvertently destroyed. During the processing of Audrey's remains, the forensic team boiled the bones to clean them, accidentally damaging the bullet inside her body. This made it impossible for the police to match it to Abel's gun. Without concrete evidence, Abel remained free. He even began leading tourists to the crime scenes, sparking outrage among the public, especially Tim, Laura's father. After his daughter's death, Tim founded a non-profit organization to support the families of missing victims. Initially, he suspected Clyde, but upon learning about Abel, he became convinced that Abel was the true culprit. Tim rallied others to investigate Abel's horse ranch. They scoured the property, uncovering women's clothing and handbags. Under mounting public pressure, Abel sought a protective order and left the Interstate 45 area. In 2005, he took his own life by driving a golf cart onto a train track. Abel's death left many questions unanswered, and the case hit a dead end, with the killer still at large. On March 5, 1996, Crystal Jean Baker, after an argument with her family, ran away from home. She called a friend from a convenience store near Interstate 45. 2 hours later, her body was found under a bridge. She had been assaulted and strangled to death. Crystal was the niece of actress Marilyn Monroe. On April 3, 1997, Laura Smither, a 12-year-old girl, vanished while jogging in the morning in a safe residential neighborhood. Over 6,000 people, including the FBI and U.S. Marines, joined the search effort. On April 20th, Laura's body was discovered in a retention pond. In the aftermath, schools began distributing biosample kits to families, collecting hair and nail samples from students to aid in DNA identification of victims. On July 15, 1997, Kelly, a 20-year-old woman, disappeared at a payphone near a convenience store. On August 17th, Jessica Lee Kane, a 17-year-old, went missing after her car was found abandoned on Interstate 45. These are just a fraction of the long list of victims. The nightmare on Interstate 45 stretched into 2006, with many cases still unsolved. Over 3 decades, at least 30 people became victims along Interstate 45, possibly more. The main cause was local police negligence. They dismissed missing persons cases, neglecting proper investigations. Victims were dumped near the highway, yet police labeled them missing and abandoned the cases. Bodies were found months, even years later. The hot, humid climate caused rapid decomposition, erasing evidence and making investigations nearly impossible. Even when the killer was known, convictions were rare. This likely emboldened criminals, who grew brazen, defying the law. On May 17, 1997, a turning point arrived. The first known survivor emerged. Sandra, a 19-year-old, was making a call at a convenience store in Webster when she noticed a man staring at her intently. As she left the store, she discovered her tire had been slashed. The same man, coincidentally, passed by and offered to help. In the darkness, Sandra didn't notice the knife he was clutching. He forced her into his car, speeding down Interstate 45 with the intent to assault her. Sandra fought back fiercely and jumped from the moving vehicle. Though severely injured, she survived. The predator, panicked, fled the scene. Sandra was rushed to a hospital, and after a few days she provided the police with a detailed account of the attack and a description of her assailant. The predator, William Lewis Reese, a 38-year-old man, was swiftly apprehended. The investigation revealed him to be a dangerous criminal. In April 1986, he had kidnapped and assaulted the 19-year-old daughter of a deputy sheriff. She managed to escape when he led his guard down at a motel. William was arrested but released on bail. Soon after, he assaulted another woman. This time, he was sentenced to 25 years in prison. However, his lawyer argued there were procedural errors in the trial, and in October 1996, William was granted a suspended sentence and released. By 2016, he began cooperating with the police, providing a map marking the burial sites of his victims and offering to confess to all his crimes in exchange for avoiding the death penalty. The authorities, however, rejected this deal. Using William's map, the police located the remains of two victims, Jessica Lee Kane and Kelly and Cox. William later confessed to killing 4 people. On August 19, 2021, a court in Oklahoma sentenced William to death for the murder of Tiffany. In March 2021, he was extradited to Texas for further trials, where he received a life sentence for the murders of Laura Smither, Jessica, and Kelly. But William wasn't the only killer. Now, let's turn to the second perpetrator, Edward Harold Bell, a depraved fugitive who evaded justice for decades. Do you remember Rhonda and Sharon, the regulars at the swimsuit shop? Edward, a co-owner of the store, had a sick habit of exposing himself to women. He had been arrested 12 times for this behavior, but always managed to escape conviction. In 1978, Edward exposed himself to a group of girls. Larry, a 26-year-old former U.S. Marine, stepped in to intervene, but Edward pulled out a .22 caliber gun, firing multiple shots at Larry before using a rifle to shoot him in the head. Larry's mother and sister witnessed the entire ordeal. Edward was arrested but fled the U.S. for decades after posting bail. On December 2, 1992, a widely broadcast television program about Larry's murder led to Edward's capture in Panama. He was finally sentenced to 70 years in prison. While incarcerated, Edward confessed to a reporter that he had killed 11 people, including Rhonda and Sharon. Many experts also believe he was a serial killer. But when he died on April 20, 2019, Edward had only been prosecuted for Larry's murder. The third killer, Mark Stallings, remains a mysterious figure. In 2013, he was sentenced to life in prison for an unrelated crime. Then, unexpectedly, he confessed to the murders of Donna and Audrey. His confession matched the case details perfectly. Yet, inexplicably, he was never charged for these 2 murders. The fourth culprit brought to justice was Kevin Edison Smith. In 2009, during an arrest related to drug charges, the police collected his DNA. The sample matched semen found on Crystal Jean Baker, the victim of the 1996 murder. The jury reached a verdict after just 30 minutes of deliberation, and Kevin was sentenced to life in prison. In 2019, they signed the Crystal Jean Baker Act into law, allowing the collection of DNA from felony suspects before a conviction. This legislation has since played a crucial role in numerous investigations. The last perpetrator in this grim saga is Clyde Edwin Hedrick, a charismatic yet deeply sinister man. Clyde was a charmer who could sing and dance, captivating those around him. He had countless girlfriends and a string of failed marriages. He also had a daughter named Mara, who later exposed his depraved behavior. Clyde was a serial philanderer, constantly arguing with her mother. He even exposed himself to Mara in a disturbing act of indecency. By the time she reached high school, Mara ran away from home. Years later, after her mother divorced Clyde, the two returned to their old house. It was then that Mara discovered a hole in her bedroom wall. Clyde had been secretly watching her for years. He also forced her to drink concoctions she didn't like, after which she would pass out while watching TV. In a hazy state, she felt someone groping her, but couldn't wake up. When the police reopened Ellen's case involving Clyde, they uncovered a hidden truth. Initially, the autopsy couldn't determine Ellen's cause of death, so Clyde was only convicted of tampering with a corpse. However, upon exhumation, a large fracture was found on Ellen's skull, indicating she had suffered severe trauma before her death. No one could explain why the original coroner's report had overlooked this critical detail. In 2014, Clyde was retried and sentenced to 20 years in prison for manslaughter. While serving his sentence, he confessed to the murders of Laura and Heidi, yet he still faced no legal consequences for these crimes. This raises a haunting question. Why do so many killers confess to their crimes, but escape conviction? The primary reason lies in the negligence of the police, which led to the loss of crucial evidence. For instance, the blue plaid shirt found near Laura's body mysteriously disappeared. Laura's remains were exhumed 3 times due to the police mishandling evidence collection procedures. Tim, Laura's father, had to bury his daughter 3 times, compounding his grief with each reburial. While investigative technology was limited at the time, proper evidence preservation could have, with today's advanced forensic methods, brought the perpetrators to justice. In 2021, Clyde was released early for good behavior and now resides in a halfway house. In 2022, Tim Miller filed a civil lawsuit against Clyde, and the court ordered Clyde to pay $24 million in damages. Whether Clyde will actually pay this sum remains an open question. The cases we've explored paint a dark and complex picture of crime, injustice, and systemic failures in the legal system. Many investigations stalled due to local police negligence. Poor evidence preservation, lackluster investigations, and indifference toward missing persons cases created an environment where criminals thrived. Unprofessional handling of evidence, especially in the early years of this crime spree, led to the loss of vital clues, making prosecutions nearly impossible. These cases serve as a stark warning about the urgent need to reform the legal system, enhance police capabilities, and protect the rights of victims' families. And the night deepens. Thank you for being here with me at Radio Night Crime. True crime stories remind us of life's mysteries and the need to stay aware, even in the stillness of the night. If you enjoyed tonight's story, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Let the sound of the rain lull you to sleep, and until next time, stay safe, stay curious, and let the night keep you company.